881. Comprehension of spiritual power. Nailu, no matter how many times you say this, it's useless. Naruto looked solemn, seeing Nailu standing in front of him again, but his own strength could not help. This deep sense of powerlessness made he was extremely unwilling in his heart. Zanpakuto tightly in both hands, tried his best to mobilize the strength in his body, and said slowly, in this virtual circle, no matter how big the danger is, since we became partners, we will never give up again. Another escaped. Naruto. Nailu's eyes flickered with sparkling material. She turned around. The spiritual pressure of her whole body suddenly increased a little, and then she rushed towards the beetle. I must beat it. Never fail. Because behind him is the most important person behind him. If he fails, his life will be lost. Nailu thought firmly in her heart. Under the will to protect Naruto, Nailu burst out with unprecedented power, a bit stronger than the power at the peak. She and Beetle Daxu collided with each other for hundreds of tricks in a row, and each time she was beaten back by Beetle Daxu, but her momentum did not weaken at all, and she attacked the opponent again and again. Is this woman crazy? Beetle Daxu found that he couldn't solve her within 100 moves, and immediately became angry and shouted, since you want to court death so much, then Uncle Ben will use the strongest move. Solve you completely. The strongest virtual flash. Max. The beetle opened its mouth wide, and a huge energy ball condensed in its mouth. The energy of Yuhi color continued to condense and condense. In the end, a black phantom flash in Yuhi was formed. This is a virtual dodge that I use all my strength to do. You can't dodge, and you can't stop it. The beetle gushed out at Nailu, at a speed like lightning, and Nailu couldn't dodge even if she wanted to. Open. She could only lift the bone spear in her hand and stop it in her chest. This is the strongest phantom flash. With Nailu's power, it is absolutely impossible to stop it. It is very likely that it will be blasted to ashes. Naruto saw this scene, and his whole body was shocked. Although he didn't aim at himself, he could also feel a tremor that he had never felt before. This is the coercion of absolute power. Naruto felt that if he was under this virtual flash, he might not be able to stop him, right? What about Nailu? Although she is strong, the power of the beetle Daxu is stronger than hers, and this is his strongest blow. Nailu simply cannot resist. Could it be that I can only watch Nailu being knocked down? Do not. No way. The next moment, Naruto's eyes suddenly had a firm look of what he had done before. At the same time, he noticed that a powerful force was emerging from his body. This is a power that comes from the bottom of my heart. It is so huge, and it comes so suddenly. But what is really real is his power, the power that comes from the depths of his heart. At the same time as this power rose, Naruto's spirit suddenly entered his consciousness space. What caught my eye was China's gentle and pretty face. Naruto, do you want to protect that girl? Yes, I can't let her die. But my strength is so weak right now. Naruto bit Kiba and said unwillingly. Very good, I can understand your feeling of wanting to protect her. Let go and do it. Use your heart, and you will find that everything will be different. The smile on Chanae's face remained the same. She stretched, putting both hands on Naruto's shoulders. Meimu stared into his eyes and said. The next moment, Naruto's spirit returned. Use your heart. Desire to protect Nailu's mood. Strength. It's coming up. Uzumaki, on his hands tightly. It seems that my understanding of power has deepened. Spirit power is indeed different from other powers. He murmured. Zanpakuto in his hands suddenly burst into an extremely strong light. The power that surged up from Naruto's body was poured into the knife, and at the same time, a spiritual power was suddenly absorbed into Zanpakuto from the outside world. Naruto's body, with Zanpakuto as the center, shone brightly and dazzlingly. And the spiritual pressure of his whole person is climbing wildly. Climb up again. This powerful and unusual Reiatsu immediately caught the attention of Nailu and Beetle Queen Daxu. What a powerful Reiki! Both of them had such thoughts in their minds. The next moment, I saw the figure flashed slightly. The light flashed, carrying a strong spiritual pressure, and Naruto appeared in front of Nailu in a blink of an eye. At this time, the strongest virtual flash of the Beetle's Big Virtual just came to him. Naruto. Nailu opened her mouth, startled by Naruto's sudden action. However, before she could think about it, the Zanpakuto in Naruto's hand had already slashed forward fiercely. With an indomitable momentum. White light. The dazzling white sword light was like a huge crescent moon, detached from the Naruto sword, and slammed forward fiercely on the Yuhi color virtual flash. Boom! The light of the two energies collided almost instantly, and a huge roar sounded, penetrating the world. There was a violent air wave Uzumaki around, and the roar was deafening. The sky is lit up by the light of these two energies. How can this guy burst out with such a powerful force? It's impossible. Beetle Daxu was shocked and angry. The power of the virtual flash that it launched itself, even if it was a high-level Ichuka's the existence should also temporarily avoid the edge. But this trash god of death, who was ignored by him, suddenly rushed forward with strength. Resist together with your own virtual flash. Incredible. At this moment, watching the two energies violently collide and entangle, and the surrounding sandstorms are set off, the beetle can't believe it. And Nailu, who was behind Naruto, was also shocked. Is this still Naruto? His power simply cannot reach this level. But the power emanating from him at this time is actually stronger than her own. Sudden. The two forces intertwined to the end, and Naruto's white light gradually suppressed the deep Yuhi-colored phantom flash, and then slowly moved towards the beetle's big phantom. This is absolutely impossible. How can an ant-like death god have such power? You cheated. At the moment when his will was loosened, Naruto's white blade light smashed all the phantom flash energy with a slam, and flashed past it. 882. Strength increases. Beetle Daxu's body suddenly shook. Its two orangutan Yuhi-colored eyes showed unwilling eyes. Immediately afterwards, his whole body turned into light and disappeared into the air, as if it had never appeared before. Naruto stood on the spot, the spiritual pressure on his body was slowly withdrawn, his face was pale, and his mouth was slightly panting. Nailu came to him and asked in surprise, Naruto, you actually defeated him. Naruto looked at his hands and Zanpakuto was there. He nodded slightly, looked at Nailu and said, yeah, that kind of power just now. Before he finished speaking, his body shook slightly, and an incomparably huge force poured into his body from all around, so rich and powerful. This is the power obtained after beheading the beetle Daxu. Naruto didn't have time to say anything more. He immediately entered the practice meditation, refining the power he obtained little by little. Nailu knew his situation at this time, and after regaining her human form, she sat beside him to protect the Dharma for him. Her eyes fell on his face, and she watched it over and over again, as if she never got tired of watching it. After an unknown amount of time, Naruto exhaled a long breath, and a powerful force suddenly radiated from his body, setting off a breeze around him. He opened his eyes, and a faint light flashed in his blue pupils. Naruto, great, your strength has become so strong. Nailu exclaimed and looked at him in surprise. Naruto felt the power of his own at this time, and his face was a little unbelievable. Just now, he found that a powerful force suddenly surged out of his body, and this force was even stronger than the intermediate Ichuka's. And he later used this power to kill the enemy in an instant. It was a power that emerged from the depths of his heart, and Zanpakuto, Uzumaki, seemed to be fused together, making him feel that this was the power that Uzumaki brought him. What kind of power is this? Naruto was a little confused. He only knew that he had a strong feeling of wanting to protect Nailu at the time, and under the influence of this feeling, he communicated with China, and then the power surged out. Could it be that this is the result of your own Zanpakuto being developed? Naruto secretly guessed in his heart. However, Naruto is still unable to grasp this kind of power. It can suddenly increase to the power of the intermediate Ichukas, or even the power of the advanced Ichukas. How can it be so easy to control? Although Naruto can be sure that the explosion just now was a power of his own, he still needs to explore and master to use it again. Fortunately, Naruto's own strength has been greatly enhanced now, and he initially felt that his spiritual pressure at this time was equivalent to the junior Ichukas, and he was about to reach the level of the intermediate Ichukas. That is to say, in the Soul world, it is only a spiritual pressure comparison, and he is already qualified to fight against the captain. Just that he hasn't even learned Shikai yet. It is purely to enhance the basic Reiatsu and power. Nailu, my strength is almost yours now. We can finally fight together in the future. Naruto's eyes flickered. Naruto, you protected me just now. You are so powerful, Nailu exclaimed in admiration. Hey, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be able to make such rapid progress. If it was just Naruto alone, he felt that it would be difficult for him to burst out that kind of power. The reason why he was able to defeat the beetle Daxu, who is several times stronger than him, was because he wanted to protect Nailu urgently and got Uzumaki acknowledgement, thus inspiring a stronger force. This is an experience and a test. Naruto felt that it was really a lucky thing to meet Nailu. When Nailu heard this, a happy smile appeared on her face. This is the so-called inner circle. We killed an Ichukas-level Daxu here just now. It's likely that other Daxu have already known about it. Now we have to keep moving and hide our breath at the same time. Otherwise, it will be bad to attract stronger guys. Naruto said solemnly after the two walked forward for a while. Nailu nodded. Well, although there is a strong atmosphere around here, there are not many Arcucus-level existences, and it also said just now that it needs to report to the virtual king, which means that there is a virtual king's jurisdiction here. We can't too much attention. Naruto also took it seriously. The inner circle was full of dangers, and there were many wise Daxu. He and Nailu were like sheep entering the tiger's mouth, walking among the Jedi. However, in order to strengthen himself, this is the fastest choice and way. Naruto is eager to become stronger, so he has no other choice. Void Knight Palace. In the hall, sitting on the high throne was a huge figure with a strong breath. Its entire body looks very burly and has a shape similar to that of a human being, but the head is a human skull, exuding a pale light, and the skull has a golden crown on top of its head. Skeleton King. At this time, at the door of the main hall, a small-sized virtual walked in and respectfully reported to it. Great Emperor, the guard of the inner circle, Bart, has been eliminated. It seems that a powerful guy broke into our inner circle. It's here. Oh, the great skeleton made a dull and old voice, and then said coldly, it seems that he is an Ichukas-level guy who can defeat Bart. Hurry up and send someone to track down those two guys. Be sure to capture them alive and bring them back. This king wants them to see what the king's power is. Yes, Great Emperor. The visitor bowed, and then immediately backed out. Great Skeleton pondered for a while, and murmured, anything that doesn't obey discipline will be conquered by this king. At this time, the two of Naruto hid in the inner circle and ran around. On the way, they found some powerful virtuals and killed them to increase their own strength. The difference between the inner circle and the outer circle is really big. In a short period of time, Naruto has killed almost hundreds of Korean-level Daxu, and even the lower-level Yachuka's Daxu encountered one. The strength has increased rapidly, and it has overtaken Nailu. And Nailu does not have such a desire to become stronger like Naruto. During this period of time, she only assists Naruto, and will kill him when she encounters some Daxu who wants to hurt Naruto. Naruto originally wanted her to kill some Daxu to increase her power, but Nailu didn't seem to be willing to kill those Daxu indiscriminately. After all, Shuhu was beheaded by the god of death. The soul will enter hell to receive punishment, waiting for the redemption of the next life, but Nailu finds that the Shu beheaded by herself will become her own food, and Nailu does not want such killing and devouring in her heart. 883. Fetters. However, this ability of Nailu is her own, and she cannot control it. Once Shu is beheaded, she will not need to eat it, and Shu will automatically transform into food and enter her body. So sometimes she is also very distressed by this ability of her own. However, she felt very happy to see Naruto getting stronger step by step. He is a god of death, and the essence of his soul is different from himself. When he kills Shu, he is judging for Shu. The more you kill, the more Shu will be liberated. But in your own words, the more you kill, the more you will sin, the more serious. During this period of time, the simple Nailu also thought in her heart that Naruto is a god of death, and he will return to the soul realm sooner or later, and he is an empty soul, so he cannot go there with him at all. In other words, at that time, he would have to be separated. She couldn't imagine that scene. Because since she was conscious, Naruto has been by her side, and she feels like a master to him. I really hope that day comes later, Nailu secretly said in her heart. However, as long as the two can be together now, we will talk about the future. Thinking of this, Nailu felt happy again. I have to say, her mind is so pure. Boom! Naruto slashed forward fiercely. The knife light slammed into a high sand dune with a bang, and suddenly the sand and dust flew into the sky, and the waves rolled. Naruto, your current strength has reached the level of an intermediate Ichuka's. You've improved so fast. I can't compare to you at all. Nailu smiled happily. She came to Naruto's side and gently held Naruto's arm with a pure smile on her face. Naruto turned his head and smiled at her. Looking at her happy face, there was also a faint worry in his heart. The purpose of my coming here is to exercise and become stronger, and then sooner or later I will go back to find my body and return to the original world. At the thought of breaking up with her, Naruto felt extremely reluctant. Although he also thought about taking Nailu back, so far, even he himself is not sure of the danger of traveling through time and space. Before he can't grasp it himself, how dare he let Nailu take risks with him? Therefore, he felt that he and Nailu were destined to have a separation. Recently, he discovered that the strength of his soul power was many times stronger than when he was here. If he was in this state of soul power, would he be able to control the power of chaos in his body? He has no way of knowing this, but vaguely, he has felt a distant call in his heart. That is the call from the body drifting in the turbulent time and space. Just get stronger. You can go back to your original body. Naruto had a strong premonition in his heart. If you continue to stay in this inner circle for a period of time, as long as you encounter a few Ichukas-level giants, I believe that day will not be far away. At this moment, Naruto's heart was mixed with joy and sorrow. In front of it is a tall white stone wall, which is really rare in the virtual circle formed by the desert. It seems that these stone walls are likely to be built by a wise man himself. Behind this stone wall, it seems that even if it is bursting into the territory of the Zai Palace, there should be a virtual king living in the virtual Night Palace. Although Naruto had some impressions of the plots he had seen before, he still didn't remember the details of the virtual circle. I only know that there were 10 blades here after Aizen arrived, and I don't remember the other details so clearly. Let's not enter the back of these stone walls. There must be more high-level Daxu staring at it, and entering without authorization is likely to be besieged. Nailu reminded. Naruto also knew the seriousness and nodded. Although he is eager to become stronger, the premise is that he must be within the scope of his ability, otherwise, if he does not consider the consequences at all, his luck will be exhausted. Therefore, Naruto decided that in the next time, he would look for the lonely Ichuka's Daxu on the periphery of this stone wall. Hope to gain something. Naruto, thinking like this, wandered around the stone wall with Nailu, killing those who were left alone. His spiritual power has also gradually become stronger as he absorbs it again and again. If he were to divide his power into a virtual level, it would be approaching the level of an intermediate level Ichuka's. That is to say, now his spiritual power has almost reached the level of a captain. With such strength, even if there is no Master Shikai in dissolution, and no Master's profound ghost way, he can still gallop in the virtual circle, which is enough to have the power to protect himself. However, he couldn't be satisfied with that alone. Now he can sense the call from his body in the distant void, but he can't really feel it, and he doesn't know how to open the space to find his body. So, get stronger. Just get stronger step by step. This step is only possible when you become stronger. However, he had a hunch that that day was not far away. Body drifting in the turbulent time and space, I will not let you go alone. Light flashed in Naruto's eyes. Nailu stood beside him, her eyes always falling on him. In the dark, she and Naruto had a feeling, and seemed to be able to understand some of Naruto's thoughts. Although Naruto didn't say it, she knew that Naruto would leave this world sooner or later, and she also knew that Naruto came to this world. Such an eager cultivation must have a persistent belief in the heart. Nailu also knows that she can't help him fulfill his obsession, and she doesn't know what Naruto is obsessed with, but Naruto's belief is her belief, and her belief is to protect Naruto. Naruto seemed to sense what was being conveyed in Nailu's eyes, and he turned around and glanced at her. Nailu looked at him firmly, conveying her belief. Naruto's body was shocked, and he couldn't help clenching Nailu's hand. He knew that from this moment on, he had formed an invisible bond with her. Even if he was in another time and space in the future, this bond would also it can no longer be cut off. It will firmly occupy Naruto's heart, and let him worry about it through time and space. It seems that no matter how things change in the future, if you have your own bonds in this time and space, you will never be able to give up this time and space in the future. In the future, no matter how much time and space apart, Naruto will definitely return to this place, just like the worlds in front of him, deeply rooted in his heart. 884. 3 Achukas. In the Soul Realm, there are many powers, and the most powerful power floating on the surface is the power in the Void Night Palace. These days, Naruto and Nailu have been beheading Daxu around the stone wall, and they have also obtained a lot of information. Among them is the general situation of the virtual Night Palace. The Zai Palace is actually a great void that has produced wisdom. It has established a set of existences similar to the Jingling Court in the Corpse and Soul world. It has inspiring order and management, and there are countless masters among them. After being effectively managed, the battle power generated by the Daxu is also not trivial, and it is not something that ordinary people can resist. And the strongest virtual in this virtual night palace is the big virtual named Balagang. Its level has reached the level of Vastord, which is the highest level of existence in the big virtual. Under its hands, there are many strong men, and these strong men each lead their own great virtual troops to serve it. Balagang, also known as the number 210 blades in the original plot, is very powerful, second only to the number 110 blades among the 10 blades, and more importantly, the opponent's ability to let the substances touched rapid aging is equivalent to the power of time. That ability Naruto is also impressive now. It can be said that if the current Naruto encounters Balagang, it is almost impossible to defeat. Of course, it is not easy to kill Naruto under its own Shunpo. Therefore, Naruto was reluctant to enter the world behind the stone wall, because it was the real territory of the Void Night Palace. Once he entered there, his every move would definitely be monitored by those powerful Daxu. Nailu, in the past few days, it's better for you to improve your strength. I'm almost surpassing you. Naruto beheaded Daxu again, and after absorbing and transforming all the energy, he opened his eyes to Nailu said. Sooner or later, he will leave her. If she does not have enough strength to protect herself, how can she leave in peace? Therefore, even if Nailu was unwilling to kill, Naruto had to persuade her more. Nailu nodded. She understood Naruto's good intentions, and also knew the truth of the law of the weak in this virtual circle. Naruto looked at her absent-minded appearance, and at a glance she could see that she was perfunctory, but there was no way to do it. Nailu's nature was like this, even if she insisted, it would be meaningless. It is precisely because of Nailu's kind and innocent nature that Naruto has such a favorable impression of her. If Nailu becomes a slaughtering guy, it won't be cute anymore, right? Naruto shook his head and smiled bitterly in his heart. However, his strength is improving step by step, and he will soon return to the original time and space. Before that, Nailu must become stronger. At least she has to raise her strength to the peak of Echuka's. Even Vastord. Nailu, let's go behind this stone wall. Let's go to the Zai Palace. Naruto suddenly made such a proposal. Nailu was slightly startled, but she didn't expect Naruto to suddenly bring up this idea, although she knew that it was a matter of time. After all, there were no masters around here, and only if you continued to go deeper would you be able to make a difference. Breakthrough. I'm afraid this is not good, right? Those guys inside must be stronger. I'm likely to be defeated by then, and more importantly, those guys all have a dignified and orderly management. Once we make a noise, will they join forces to arrest or wipe us out? She raised her concerns. Naruto frowned slightly and pondered. Nailu, in fact, even if we don't go in now, someone will come to arrest us soon. Do you remember the beetle Daxu that appeared in front of us last time? The level has reached the level of intermediate Echukas. Even in the Zai Palace, a guy of this strength is valued by others. It has disappeared for such a period of time. I believe that someone in Zai Gongyi will come to investigate. We staying here for such a long time now. It is very lucky that they have not been checked by them. So next, we can only enter in a deeper level, with advances retreat, otherwise we can only escape forever. Quote. Naruto, what you said makes sense. Then, let's go in now. Nailu nodded after listening to what he said. Naruto's decision is her decision. Even if Naruto is going to hell, she will follow. This is Nile's insistence. Seeing her consent, Naruto took her hand, leapt upwards, and jumped onto the high stone wall. Behind the stone wall, there was still a desert and the huge void night palace, but after passing this stone wall after that, Naruto clearly felt that the aura of Reiatsu here was stronger and more chaotic. This shows that there are more powerful beings here, and the number of phantoms will become more and more. The two looked at each other with a solemn look in their eyes. They knew that from this moment on, the two of them were equivalent to entering the Jedi, and they had to be on guard against danger at all times. The Zai Palace is very large and spectacular. It looks like an extremely luxurious castle. Unfortunately, the only fly in the ointment is that the surrounding is all barren, which makes this huge castle seem lonely. At this moment, Naruto's expression froze, and his eyes looked at the desert on the left side beside him. Nailu also looked there at the same time. Reiatsu. Several powerful Reiatsu are rapidly approaching here. As soon as I came in, I was noticed. It seems that the order in this virtual circle is not worse than that of the soul world. Naruto murmured. Nailu slowly put her jade hand on her waist and held Zanpakudo. In the next instant, there were a few squeaks. 3 figures appeared in front of Naruto. These 3 figures all have bodies that are close to human shape, one with a head like a mouse mask, one like a tiger mask, and the other a strangely shaped mask with horns. These 3 are all Echukas-level existences. All of a sudden, 3 appeared. Naruto frowned slightly. The spiritual pressure aura of these 3 big virtuals, the long-horned big virtual aura is the weakest, and the rat-shaped and tiger-shaped big virtual auras are similar, all of which have reached the level of intermediate Echukas. As for Naruto and Nailu, their current strength is barely reaching the intermediate level of Echukas, but they have to face 3 great voids. Not only that, with the appearance of the 3 of them, countless old Killian-level Dashways poured out around them. 885. The fierce battle begins. There are literally hundreds of them. Coupled with the great emptiness of the 3 Echukas in front of them, the forces formed must not be underestimated. Even if the captain of the Soul Society came here, he would be dismayed. Such a force definitely poses a huge threat to the 2 of Naruto. You 2 guys, trespassing on the territory of Zai Palace, the guards who disappeared before were killed by you, right? Tiger Daxu asked. His voice was extremely dull, as if with a roaring voice. Since you've discovered it, there's only battle. Naruto said coldly with a flash of eyes. These 3 big virtuals, at a glance, know that they are prepared, and hundreds of big virtuals are gathered at once. This kind of battle is like arresting criminals. Gia, I really don't know how high the sky is. You, a mere god of death, dare to run wild on our empty territory. The king is very angry, and a guy like you will be captured and tortured slowly. Daxu said with a strange smile. And you, the aliens in the void. Not to mention the body turned into a human being, but actually came together with the god of death. A traitor like you should be captured and handed over to Lord Void for disposal. It looked at Nailu again. A huge momentum emanated from the three of them, faintly oppressing the two of Naruto. Nailu was unmoved, her face was light, looking at Naruto, waiting for his decision. Naruto slowly pulled out the Zanpakuto from his waist, held the yuhi-colored hilt, and smiled lightly. Now that we have to fight, Nailu. Nailu had no choice but to nod her head. Although she didn't want to kill anymore, at this moment, if she didn't fight, Naruto would never be able to deal with the three Uchikas alone. This is what Naruto wants to see. Walking in here and training Nailu is also one of Naruto's goals. Humph. Since you want to court death so much, let us take care of you personally. The three big virtuals roared in unison, turning into three shadows and rushing towards Naruto and Nailu. The mouse and tiger Daxu joined forces to attack Naruto, while the odd-shaped Daxu rushed towards Nailu. In their view, Naruto is the god of death, the biggest enemy of the virtual, and everything is easy to say if he gets rid of him first. Naruto's figure flickered, and he made a sudden step. At the same time, a sword light flashed, and instantly appeared in front of Tiger Daxu, and slashed at it. However, Tiger Daxu suddenly stretched out his hands, and a pair of huge claws appeared on his palms, glowing with a metallic luster. With a crisp sound, sparks splashed, and easily blocked Naruto's slash. The old book was like a shadow, and at this time, it went directly to Naruto's back, and the whole body suddenly turned into a whirlwind, and stabbed Naruto's vest. In the gust of wind, Naruto felt the danger behind him, and he hurriedly wanted to leave again, but he didn't want Tiger Daxu's claws to firmly grasp his Zanpakuto. Can't move. Naruto was shocked, and at this moment, the wind cone formed by the rotating rat's body had come to Naruto's back center. At this time, it is extremely dangerous. If Naruto can't escape, his body will be severely injured. At this critical moment, Naruto once again broke out the power in Zanpakuto. The knife in his hand radiated a dazzling light, and almost in an instant, he slashed the Tiger Daxu's claws with force, and knocked it out. Sizzle. The dazzling Hanabi splashed everywhere, and a powerful penetrating force and strong wind violently launched in front of Naruto. Naruto's arm shook, and Zanpakuto was almost knocked out, his face hurt by the gust of wind. However, he never gave up on Zanpakuto, he held on firmly, and the wind cone turned into a big mouse was blocked. Boom. Finally, both Naruto and the wind cone retreated back dozens of meters. A mouse-like figure appeared. Gia, the strength is not bad. With the cooperation of the two of us, you can actually handle it. However, it will not be so easy next time. Rat Daxu laughed strangely. Suddenly, Naruto turned around and saw that the Tiger Daxu had already reacted, standing more than 10 meters away from him. It opened its mouth at this time, and bursts of fierce roars came out of its mouth. Hoo hoo hoo. This is the sound of tiger roaring. The violent energy enveloped the surrounding desert, creating a violent hurricane. When the tiger roared, the Tiger Daxu's mouth was also madly running spiritual power, and a deep yuhi-colored energy bomb was generated in its mouth. This is the virtual flash of the tiger. Among them, the power of the tiger is condensed, which is stronger than the general virtual flash. Tiger King's Void Flash. Boom. Yuhi-colored energy laser blasted out, and the air was shaken by waves of air, which spread out towards the surroundings. Naruto just saw this scene at this time. The next moment, he pushed Shunpo with all his strength, and the spiritual pressure under his feet exploded frantically, flashing with a swoosh. His figure has appeared in another place. Dodge. With a bang, the virtual flash landed on the stone wall behind him, blasting it into a big hole. Naruto was in a cold sweat. This is really dangerous, and there is absolutely no chance to counterattack under the attack of the two Ichukis-level big virtual clips. Sudden. There was another airflow coming from behind, and Naruto saw the attack of the mouse Daxu again. This time, I saw the wind whistling around, accompanied by the yellow sand that covered the sky, covering all around Naruto at once. Not good. Obstructed view. Naruto was slightly startled. At this moment, a cold light suddenly appeared in the wild sand. As soon as Naruto raised his arm, he only felt a pain in his back. With a chirp, a blood stain appeared on his back. Blood splashed out. Naruto's knife slashed back sharply, and a white knife light split the dust, but it was quickly submerged in it. Swish. Suddenly, another cold light flashed, and a pair of claws suddenly appeared under Naruto's abdomen. Naruto was startled. He quickly pushed Zanpakuto down, and at the same time sent out Shunpo. But it was still too late to stop. With a chirp, a deep wound appeared in the abdomen, and blood was rushing. This is obviously the ability of that mouse Daxu. I didn't expect it to be so strong with Wangsha. It's hard to fathom its movements. Moreover, the yellow sand and the strong wind blocked his vision and hearing, and Naruto's reaction power dropped sharply. He is in crisis. Zanpakuto danced out of Naruto's hands in an attempt to find the other party, but the mouse Daxu seemed to be combined with Wangsha, making it hard to guard against. 886. 1 against 2. At this time, ninjutsu cannot be used, and magic cannot be used. And with his current ghost path cultivation, he can't use an effective ghost path. I didn't expect the opponent to be so strong. Even if there is only one big mouse, it is difficult to deal with it with his current ability. What's more, there is also a tiger staring at him. I don't know what happened to Nailu. Naruto was anxious. But at this moment, he knew that no matter how urgent it was useless. We must defeat these three big virtuals. Otherwise, you will be buried here. Thinking of this, Naruto snorted angrily. He suddenly stood still, but closed his eyes. After all, he was the strongest in the past, the master had the supreme power, had experienced countless battles, and maintained a calm mentality during the battle. Since you can't catch it with your eyes, use your mind to catch the other party's movements. Spiritual power. It is the power of the soul. As long as you communicate with the outside world, you can detect all the subtle fluctuations. At this time, the claws of the mouse Daxu once again appeared in front of Naruto. Naruto seemed to sense the danger, and he took a step back suddenly. But he still couldn't detect the other party's movements for the first time, and a long bloodstain was slashed on his chest again. At this time, Naruto was already dripping with blood. But his heart is more and more calm. The pain on his body also seems to no longer exist. Although he closes his eyes, he seems to be able to see every move around him. Sudden. A cold light flew from a distance, with an AWE-inspiring arc. The target was his arm. The rat in the yellow sand was dazed and smirked. You garbage god of death, you dare to enter Arzai Palace territory with your strength. Now I will torture you to death. Its voice flew everywhere, making people unable to understand the angle, and its tone was full of ridicule and banter. Then, just when the rat's claws had just reached in front of Naruto's arm, Naruto with his eyes closed suddenly waved Zanpakuto in front of him. A white knife flashed. The claw seemed to be just under the blade of the knife, and it was suddenly cut off. Puff. Blood rushed out. The slashed claws flew into the air together with the flesh and blood from the wrist. A painful roar came out. The yellow sand in the sky slowly dissipated, and the mouse Daxu stood in front of Naruto, with a shocked voice under the mask. Damn death. You can actually cut off Lao Su's hand. Although Naruto was wounded, his heart was like a mirror at this time, and he found that his understanding of spiritual power had deepened. The spiritual power is powerful and spreads out. Like his own eyes, he can see the grass and trees around him clearly. At this time, Tiger Daxu also came over and said solemnly, "You guy is still a bit capable. I didn't expect to be so sensitive. Humph. Let's go together. Naruto glanced at Nailu on the other side, and found that she was entangled with another Daxu, and at the same time those Killian Daxu were besieging her. Although those Daxu were not counted but it has been interfering with her, and it is difficult for Nailu to exert her full strength for a while. He wants a quick fight. It's crazy. Mouse Daxu and Tiger Daxu looked at each other, and they all rushed towards Naruto. However, at this time, because the master had a perception technology, he used his Reiatsu to detect the movements of people around him, so he quickly captured their movements. Swish. Instant step. Naruto disappeared in front of them. The next moment, he suddenly appeared behind the two big virtuals. Cut out. With endless momentum, the white horses tore through the air and let out a squeak, slashing at their backs fiercely. The two big virtuals sensed the danger and turned around immediately. When sound, Naruto's Zanpakuto was stopped by their claws. So close. This guy actually appeared behind him. The Mouse Daxu and the Tiger Daxu secretly wiped the cold sweat in their hearts. And Naruto missed a hit. He used Shunpo to dodge, and once again attacked them from another angle. After Naruto's perception has been enhanced, his speed can be better controlled, and the movements of the two big virtuals are all in his master. For a time, under the blink of an eye, Naruto while the two intermediate Ichukas were firmly suppressed. After fighting for a few minutes, the two big virtuals retreated. Fight! They looked at each other with a crazy look in their eyes. I saw them rushing towards Naruto in unison, and in mid-air, the big virtual mouse turned into a gust of wind, which suddenly swept the big virtual tiger, and the speed of the big virtual tiger suddenly increased. Almost melted into the wind. At the same time, a huge paw with a length of 2 meters suddenly stretched out from the palm of Tiger Daxu. It stabbed towards Naruto's chest like lightning. Seeing this scene, Naruto flashed a dignified look in his eyes. He clenched the Uzumaki with both hands, and the spiritual power of his whole body was carried into the knife, communicating the power in the knife. Uzumaki, give me strength. Naruto shouted, Zanpakuto in his hand shining brightly. The next moment, his Zanpakuto slashed forward. A horse training with infinite power, a gust of wind and flying sand rolled up around, the powerful energy is almost unstoppable. Boom. The end, Naruto's Zanpakuto and Tiger Daxu's claws collided fiercely. Makes a deafening crisp sound. Click. The tiger's claws suddenly made a cracking sound, and Naruto's Zanpakuto severed it. At this moment, the broken claws suddenly turned into a ray of light and slammed into Naruto's shoulders. Came from his mouth, but the power of Zanpakuto in Naruto's hand did not diminish at all, and he continued to chop forward. Next moment, the white shining sword light slashed apart Tiger Daxu's body and the whirlwind, and everything came to a standstill. Boom, boom. The wind subsided, and the yellow sand fell to the ground. Tiger Daxu was split in half from the middle of the mask. Laoshu Daxu's body also appeared. From the shoulders to the abdomen, it was cut by the knife light, and it was divided into 2 halves. But, damn, Lord Shu, I won't let you go. The old book Daxu could still speak. After this sentence came out of his mouth, he and Tiger Daxu turned into a light of energy and disappeared. In the air. And the broken giant claw stuck on Naruto's shoulder also disappeared. 887. Seriously injured. Naruto gasped violently, and fresh Yuhi blood dripped from the terrifying wounds on his body. Finally got rid of these two big virtuals. Next, it's time to deal with the Daxu who was fighting Nailu. Naruto looked there, and Nailu drew out Zanpakuto who was constantly fighting against it. Nailu's strength has reached the level of an intermediate Ichuka's, and she has realized the return to the blade, and she also has many unique skills, so her strength is actually not weaker than Naruto. And that grotesque void, whose strength is only the level of inferior Ichuka's, Nailu didn't have much difficulty in dealing with it. However, those Killian Daxu around are too annoying. The next moment, although Naruto was a little weak, he still rushed over. Zanpakuto, sword energy was vertical and horizontal, and the white sword light cut a passage in this desert, and Naruto quickly killed Nailu's side. Seeing that Naruto was covered in injuries, Nailu couldn't help but panic. "Naruto, your injury is serious." Nailu supported him. Naruto gently pushed her away. "I'm fine, now the top priority is to kill your opponents. I'll deal with these subordinates." "No, just leave these to me." Nailu didn't want Naruto, who was so seriously injured, to do it again. At this time, the lower-level Ichukas saw that Nailu was distracted, and immediately seized the opportunity to emit a deep yuhi-colored flicker from his mouth. Nailu sensed the danger and saw the phantom flash coming quickly. Her complexion remained unchanged, and she suddenly opened her mouth to swallow the phantom flash. Virtual flash replay. Nailu spit out again, returning all her powers. And it's doubled. This is her ability, which can absorb the opponent's phantom flash, strengthen it, and return it with twice the power. However, this move also has limitations. If the opponent's spiritual power exceeds what she can bear, it will not be able to swallow it, but will suffer a devastating blow. Therefore, Nailu can only face opponents of the same level, or her own strength will be used when. Boom! The deep yuhi color virtual flash is returned directly. A wave of air engulfs everything around it. "Hey, it's good." And the inferior Ichukas suddenly laughed strangely. He also swallowed and ate the power returned by Nailu. I saw that its body suddenly swelled in a circle, and its strength became stronger. It devours Void Flash. Moreover, turn the power of this phantom into its own power. Just listen to the grotesque Daxu, he said with a smile. "My ability is to devour the Void Flash, but if I encounter a Void Flash stronger than myself, it will be difficult to swallow it. Fortunately, the Void Flash returned this time as my own. Lingli, such a delicious and powerful virtual flash is really a pleasure." It laughed strangely, its figure flashed, its speed suddenly increased, and it appeared in front of Nailu in an instant. At the same time, the surrounding Killian Daxu also aggressively attacked where the two were. Naruto carried Nailu, his spiritual power exploded under his feet, and he suddenly escaped from the siege of the crowd. He took a breath, and the wound on his body cracked a little again, and blood spurted out. Nailu looked very anxious. "Naruto." Naruto looked at her. "Nailu, now my strength and spiritual power are severely depleted, and the injury is too serious, I can only rely on you." Nailu heard the words and saw the group of Daxu approaching, with a firm look on her face. "Okay. Naruto, then I will destroy them all. No one is allowed to hurt Naruto. Even if it causes me to kill, I will not hesitate." The momentum on her body became more condensed, and the next moment, her Zanpakuto had disappeared, replaced by a pair of bone spears, and the lower body was the body of an antelope. Back to the blade. Nailu turned her head and glanced at Naruto. She took a deep breath, raised the bone spear in her hand, and closed her eyes slightly. Boom! In the next instant, the bone spear in her hand came out of her hand, and a violent green light appeared on the white bone spear, turning into a streamer, and flying towards the body of the inferior Ichukas. Kai! The reaction of the lower-level Ichukas is simply not as good as that of Nailu, and Nailu's attack is also a physical attack, it can't be swallowed. With a loud bang, the bone spear directly penetrated the body of Daxu, pierced a large hole in its body, and landed on the sand dune behind. There was a strong explosion sound, and the sand and dust flew into the sky. Damn, Lord Void won't let you go. The lower-level Ichuka's Daxu's body turned into a little light and disappeared. At this time, those Killian Daxu seemed to have been ordered to die by the subordinate Ichukas, and Chi-Chi launched a virtual flash and shot towards Naruto's position. Looking for death, Nailu's pupils shrank slightly, and hundreds of Daxu's phantom flashes gathered together, and the power generated should not be underestimated. And Naruto is now seriously injured. I am afraid it is difficult to escape, right? How could Naruto be attacked? This has already violated Nailu's bottom line. A murderous aura flashed in her eyes, and the next moment her body turned into a green whirlwind, which merged with the bone spear in her hand, and swept away towards those big virtuals. Boom boom boom. The green whirlwind swept across, and the bodies of the big virtuals were torn into pieces. In an instant, dozens of Daxu were killed. However, after all, there are too many big virtuals, and other big virtual flashes have already slammed down towards the place where Naruto is. Boom. There was a loud noise, and the flames of the explosion illuminated almost half of the sky, and the dust flew up, and Naruto was drowned in the explosion in an instant. Naruto. Nailu was shocked, seeing Naruto being submerged by the virtual flash. This moment had a huge impact on her. Yeah. In the next instant, an incomparably strong spiritual pressure burst out from Nailu's body, and the speed increased to the fastest. Her body has completely become a green light and shadow, making it almost impossible to see the movement. Boom boom boom. I saw those big virtual masks, all of which exploded in bursts, and then the whole body disappeared into the air. In a few breaths, hundreds of great void were all penetrated by the green light. It turned into a little bit of energy and disappeared. Nailu stopped with a look of grief and indignation. Her body had returned to her human form, and the aura on her body almost turned into substance, surrounding her. Naruto, she shouted up to the sky, with an indescribable sadness in her voice. Could it be that Naruto was really killed in front of his eyes? So, what's the point of your existence? At this moment, Nailu felt desolate in her heart. 888. Healing. Suddenly, a voice came from Nailu's feet. The next moment, a figure in the yellow sand came out, Madara with blood on his body. Cough, it's really dangerous. I was almost killed by these virtual flashes. It's Naruto. He emerged from the yellow sand, wiping cold sweat with lingering fears. Just now, when those phantom flashes were all concentrated on himself, he instinctively felt the danger and used Shunbu to escape. However, because he was seriously injured and his body movements were greatly affected, he just avoided a short distance when he was hit by the aftermath of the countless virtual flash explosions, and his body was buried in the yellow sand by the rolled-up sand. However, it was not a devastating blow. What a risk. Nailu stared blankly at Naruto's staggering figure. Her eyes were dull for a moment, and then a huge surprise appeared on her face. Her body suddenly rushed towards Naruto, accompanied by a loud cry, "Naruto!" The next moment, her arms hugged Naruto at once, and her body rushed over, throwing Naruto to the ground. Hey, it hurts. Naruto was weak at this time, and after being thrown by her like this, he fell directly to the ground, and he felt pain all over his body. Tears kept flowing in Nailu's eyes, and she kept mumbling in her mouth, "It's great, Naruto, you're fine, it's great." Naruto smiled bitterly. "Nailu, if you press me again, I'll really die." Only then did Nailu get up from him, remove the two heavy mountains of meat on her chest, and look at Naruto anxiously. "I'll heal you right away." At this time, there were countless wounds on Naruto's body, some of which were deep to the bone, and the blood was dripping on the yellow sand. Nailu was greatly distressed, and stretched out her small hand to gently stroke Naruto's face. "Naruto, you must be in pain, it's all my fault. If I could have done my best to help you earlier, it wouldn't be like this." Naruto shook his head. "Don't blame yourself, I'm not dead yet. But this time you killed hundreds of Killians and 1 Ichikas at once, and your strength must be greatly improved." In fact, Naruto is not incapable of fighting. After he defeated 2 Ichikas-level Daxu, he absorbed enough spiritual power. If the battle is quick, he can also kill Nailu's opponent together. However, he didn't do this. He wanted Nailu to break through the shackles of psychology and become stronger. Obviously, Naruto succeeded. Naruto felt relieved when he felt the strong and powerful spiritual pressure on Nailu's body at this time. "I will leave this world sooner or later, but you must grow up, otherwise I am really worried." Nailu gently looked at the wound on Naruto's body with a distressed look on her face, and apologized. "I'm sorry, Naruto, I will definitely not be soft-hearted next time. As long as the guy who threatens you, I must kill them all." Quote. Listening to her words, Naruto felt a warm current in his heart, but he felt a little guilty. She had such a pure heart for her protection, but she wanted to use her feelings to make her kill. Nailu, you have to remember that in this world where the weak eat the strong, we have no choice but to keep getting stronger to protect ourselves. I also don't want to lose you. He reached out and stroked her head lightly. Showed tender eyes. Nailu narrowed her eyes slightly, with an expression of happiness and enjoyment on her face. After a while, Nailu suddenly said, Naruto, your injury is so serious, I'll help you treat it. Naruto nodded, suddenly startled again, with an embarrassed expression on his face. Nailu, are you sure you want to help me heal? Yeah, Nailu smiled innocently. Although she has human wisdom now, her mind is extremely simple, and it seems that she still retains the carelessness of the antelope back then. She stretched out her fragrant tongue, exhaled a faint fragrance from her mouth, then lowered her head and kissed Naruto's chest. The soft lilac wriggled slightly, and at the same time she ripped off Naruto's clothes little by little with both hands. Well, Naruto's body couldn't help but tremble. At this moment, the soft and wet feeling came, and suddenly there was a strange thought. He looked down at Nailu's plump and sexy body sliding on his body, the huge breasts accumulated in his lower abdomen, the heavy weight and infinitely soft touch suddenly made him want to. Not anymore. Although Nailu came from a small antelope, I have watched her evolve all the way since she was a child, but she has evolved to the present, and she seems to be a sexy royal sister. A sexy royal sister wriggled on her body and licked her body with those yuhi moist cherry mouths. It would be unbearable for any man to change it, right? However, Naruto kept silent in his heart. Nailu is a ghost, Nailu is a diker, and Nailu is a small pet. No evil thoughts. There can be no evil thoughts. Naruto closed his eyes and thought. But, so helpless. Nailu not only licked and licked, but also made a gurgling saliva swallowing sound in her throat, and even made a faint moan from her nose. Naruto, you have a lot of injuries on your body, please be patient. Tired of licking, she raised her head again and said to him. Naruto closed his eyes and muttered something in his mouth. Nailu tilted her head and asked suspiciously, Naruto, what's wrong? Is the wound uncomfortable? It seems that I haven't worked hard enough. After she finished speaking, she lowered her head again, and licked her body with her little cloves even harder. The soft and wet feeling continued to hit, and Naruto finally couldn't bear it, and let out a muffled groan. A burst of flame rose from his body, burning his mind roaringly. Damn it. I can't control it. Naruto sighed, and the ashes that had been suppressed by him finally burst out. In an instant, his body became slightly hot, and he immediately stood up between his legs. Moreover, it was so immortal, that thing happened to be in the middle of Nailu's chest. Squeeze on those giant twin peaks. A soft touch came, and even through the pants, Naruto could feel that unparalleled touch. What a tragedy. Oneself actually had evil thoughts on Nailu's body. Damn, how so? This must be blamed on the ignorant guy Nailu. Naruto sighed in his heart. 889. Can't stand it. Naruto, what's wrong with you here? Nailu suddenly felt the change in Naruto's body and couldn't help asking aloud. She lowered her head and looked at the place where Naruto's crotch bulged high, resting on her chest. It's okay, it's normal. Naruto hurriedly said with a ha-ha. Oh, Nailu was dubious, then lowered her head to heal him, of course licking him with saliva. Nailu's saliva has a very good therapeutic effect. With Naruto's current injuries, without her treatment, I'm afraid he really won't be able to persevere in this virtual circle. So, despite being embarrassed at this time, he couldn't push Nailu away, he could only let her help him. However, Nailu licked and licked all the wounds on Naruto's chest, and the next thing was the lower abdomen and the wounds on his legs. At this time, Nailu raised her head again and asked, Naruto, are you really okay? You are constantly moving here. Nailu's pretty face was close to Naruto's bulge, A pair of beautiful the eyes were staring at it very seriously and suspiciously, and the face was still innocent. Terrible. Naruto could feel her eyes staring at him, and his heart was even more strange, and it was so uncomfortable. And Nailu looked at Naruto's tangled expression again, and couldn't help frowning slightly. Naruto, you must be injured here. How could you be okay? Nailu said, and a pair of jade hands gently pulled off Naruto's pants. Suddenly, it jumped out. Wow, Naruto, you are so swollen here. Nailu looked shocked and worried. I have to say that Nailu's current mind is as pure as a blank piece of paper. Although she is an emptiness, although she was a complete soul in her previous life, since the moment she became an emptiness, her previous memories have long disappeared, and she is like a newborn human baby, her brain is like a blank sheet of paper. Although, she is now broken face because of Naruto, so she has human wisdom, but it is only wisdom. Except for some instinctive knowledge and memory about Shu, everything else is empty. Therefore, although Nailu has human wisdom, she has not systematically learned human knowledge, and of course she does not understand the human body. At this time, when I saw the huge bulge in Naruto, I thought that Naruto was injured and swollen. Naruto froze, and it was too late when he reached out to stop him. Because Nailu's pair of jade hands have been gently held up to check. Her little hands were so soft and a little cold, and Naruto's fiery big object was propped up in her palms, making her unable to hold both of her hands. Okay, that's weird, Naruto, although it's so swollen here, but there's no wound at all. Nailu approached with a jade face. Nailu carefully observed what was in her hands, her face full of inquiries. Color. This doesn't matter. You should treat my injuries in other places first. Naruto looked down and saw her hands holding him, but her face was innocent. How could he bear this kind of stimulation? Survive? No, Nailu said to Naruto suddenly and seriously, you are so swollen here. It must be very uncomfortable, right? Don't worry, Naruto, I will definitely cure you. After speaking, she stretched out her soft tongue and touched Naruto's place. Whoa. This wonderful feeling almost made Naruto scream, and the flames in his body burned even more vigorously. Wow, something's wrong. Why is the swelling suddenly worse? Nailu exclaimed. No way. I will definitely cure you. She became more serious and diligent, as if she was facing a major enemy. Her face was full of seriousness, and her soft cherry mouth was licking and licking in her again and again. Hoo. Naruto couldn't help but gasp for breath. This kind of fire is really unbearable. And Nailu worked harder and harder. In the end, she simply opened her small mouth and took Naruto into it. Throw it fast. Not only that, she also deliberately made a lot of saliva in her mouth, making a more unbearable noise. Naruto only felt that he had entered an extremely soft and warm place. It was a paradise on earth. At this time, being sucked so hard by Nailu, how can his body still bear it? And, for some reason, it may be because the body is a spiritual body. The reason is that the delicate and comfortable pleasure is clearer than when there is a body. This is the pleasure that goes directly to the depths of the soul. Naruto feels like he's flying to heaven. And Nailu watched Naruto's reaction while she swallowed hard. Seeing the look of enjoyment on his face, she immediately knew that her treatment was effective. However, she is still very strange. Why, after doing it for so long, it is even harder and swollen. I don't believe it can be cured. Nailu insisted. Even though her mouth was a little sour, she never thought about giving up. After an unknown amount of time, Naruto finally let out a muffled roar, and the essence spurted out. Nailu was swallowing and swallowing, but she didn't expect such a sudden change, and she was suddenly choked by the liquid into her throat. She hurriedly spit out Naruto's behemoth, and then coughed violently in her own throat. The drop of essence flowed down, dirtying her body, and slowly flowing into the groove in her chest. Nailu gasped slightly. Yuhi's face was dizzy after coughing. She looked very beautiful. Naruto couldn't help but look a little dazed. Naruto, what's the matter with you? Why did this happen all of a sudden? Nailu came back to her senses, and immediately approached him and asked anxiously. It was good, but why did it spray out liquid? Nailu couldn't help but panic, as if she had done something wrong, and asked Naruto nervously. After Naruto enjoyed it, the bathing fire finally spewed out. Hearing this, he couldn't help but feel guilty in his heart. He sighed and said, it's all right, you have cured me. If you don't believe me, see. Nailu looked at it and found that Naruto's place was gradually reducing swelling. Huh, that's how it is. It turns out that my treatment is effective. It scared me to death. Nailu stuck out her tongue and breathed a sigh of relief. Yeah, so Nailu can now treat me elsewhere. Naruto wiped his sweat secretly, and quickly said to her. Nailu nodded happily, and began to bend down and work on Naruto again. 890. Vastord. Void Knight Palace, deep. On the throne, the Void King sitting on the throne is furious at the moment. A bunch of rubbish. Can't even solve two small things. What a shame. Wong, those two guys don't seem to be simple. The three Achukas who went there didn't survive. A subordinate reported. Hey, no matter who they are. When you reach Lao Su's territory, you must listen to Lao Su. Belagang shouted angrily. Send a strong man. This time, we must suppress them. Bring them back. Yes. The subordinate bowed respectfully and bowed, then backed out. Belagang on the throne exudes a dangerous aura, and murmurs, no one can escape Lao Su's disposal. Swish. He stretched out his hand suddenly, and a black mist floated forward quickly, and a Jinchuriki column in the hall in front of him was instantly corroded and disappeared into the air. Naruto, your strength has become stronger again. Walking on the road, Nailu said happily while holding his arm, with a pure and flawless smile on her face. Naruto smiled, his expression still a little embarrassed. You have also become a lot stronger. If you continue like this, it will not be a problem for you to advance to Vastord. Nailu smiled and nodded. At that time, I can keep you better. It's been a while since the last battle. During this time, Naruto's injuries were almost healed, and after killing the two mid-level Achukas, his strength also improved by leaps and bounds. At this moment, even facing the intermediate Achukas again, there will be no more difficulty. And after beheading the hundreds of Killian and the lower-level Yachukas, Nailu's strength increased very quickly, and her strength was completely consolidated at the level of the intermediate Yachukas, and she was moving towards the high-level Yachukas. Cast progresses. The strength of the two has been able to gain a firm foothold in the virtual circle. However, Naruto still kept thinking about the scene where she helped him heal that day. He found that his whole body had been licked by Nailu, and the most terrible thing was that now, when he felt Nailu hugging his arm, he always had a kind of thought in his heart, so beautiful sister you, she is completely defenseless against herself. I am afraid that even if she does something to her, she will not resist at all, right? Maybe she will even cooperate very well. However, this is so awkward. Nailu has watched and evolved all the way. Although she has been transformed into a human form, she is still a kind, innocent and cute little antelope in her mind. I really can't bear to do that to her when she's as pure as paper. However, now Nailu is very clinging to herself, often holding her arm without saying anything while walking, and she is unaware of the troubles her body is causing to her. Why? Lonely men and widows are in the virtual circle, it is really difficult to control. Naruto thought, but in order to prevent himself from doing outrageous things, he tried his best to focus on his cultivation, exercising his spiritual power, cultivating ghost ways and so on. Fortunately, the virtual circle is not a bustling metropolis, and the surrounding area is deserted. Sometimes it is difficult for both of them to find a place to live. Naruto does not want to suddenly do such a thing in such a dangerous place. Although, this is also very exciting. But decisively, life is more important. There is a distant call in the depths of the soul. With the enhancement of his own strength, Naruto feels that this call is getting stronger and stronger. It is the call from the body. This call comes from the unknown turbulent time and space. Across the time and space, Naruto suddenly felt a sense of impatience in his heart. Be strong. Get stronger. Let Nailu become stronger too. Today's Nailu, although it is close to the level of high-level Ichukas, has a strong strength, but it has not evolved to the level of Vastord, and Naruto is still a little worried. Once she leaves, Nailu will survive in the virtual circle by herself, and at that time, she will face the danger of no one asking for help. Thinking like this, Naruto was eager to find a stronger opponent to challenge. At this moment, a spiritual pressure suddenly came. The air is sinking. Naruto and Nailu looked at each other with a solemn look in their eyes. This is an extremely powerful spiritual pressure. A Reiatsu stronger than Naruto and Nailu. The next moment, the two suddenly raised their heads. I saw a tall figure standing in the void, looking down at them. That is a big virtual body that looks similar to a human being. Tall and thin, with an eagle face mask covering his face. The visitor's eyes were full of disdain, and a faint voice came from behind its mask. That guy in Balagang, do you actually want me to deal with you two guys? The strength is really rubbish. Wasted. Nailu's eyes narrowed, she raised her head and stared at the man in disbelief, her voice extremely solemn. It's actually Vastod. Naruto was also shocked. Looking at the guy in the sky, he only felt that the other party's spiritual pressure was as vast as the sea, incredibly powerful. I didn't expect such a powerful guy to appear all of a sudden. The existence of the Vastord level actually jumped out. This is really bad. This was somewhat beyond Naruto's expectations. He thought about it. In the entire virtual circle, there are only a few existences at the Vastord level, and these high-level existences should be beyond the captain level. They should exist in the depths of the virtual night palace, or other places are doing their own things, and I didn't expect that they would be instructed to come to deal with themselves. You two, Shu and Death. The other person's figure flashed and suddenly appeared beside Naruto and Nailu. Naruto was stunned for a moment. With his reaction speed, he felt that he couldn't keep up with the other side. He was shocked again. Weak. Too weak. No, you are a bit strange. The aura on the other party's body suppressed Naruto and Nailu. It looked at Nailu carefully, and suddenly there was a flash of light in her eyes, and exclaimed, your Reiatsu is actually mixed with the breath of the god of death. You actually broke through the boundary between Shu and the god of death. The other party exclaimed in shock. Hey, no wonder Balagang wants me to deal with you. It turns out that you have such a secret. It looked at Naruto and laughed. If that's the case, you all come with me. You have to go back. Do some research. 891. Great Crisis. He said it very lightly, as if it was a very trivial matter, and he didn't care about Naruto and Nailu's reaction at all. If you want to take us away, let's see if we agree. Naruto stopped Nailu and pulled her behind him. At the same time, his hand held the handle of the knife. Oh, hawk-faced Vastord looked at him in surprise. How dare you resist my decision? Naruto frowned. If you want to take us away, you have to rely on your strength. As soon as he said the words, the eagle-faced Vastod burst into laughter. His voice was sharp, with a strong sarcasm in it. The ground is shaking. Naruto has a feeling that his breathing is becoming difficult. This spiritual pressure is not an existence that he can fight against. The strength of Vastord is simply terrifying. However, although Naruto felt that the opponent was outrageous, he still did not give up resistance. Even if there was no winning rate, he would not give up struggling. It's so funny. It's the funniest joke I've ever heard. Hawk-faced Vastord laughed. Do you know who I am? I am a Vastod-class existence recognized by the virtual circle. Except for Balagang, I am the strongest in all the virtual worlds. Stupid guy, you actually said such a thing to me. Eagle-faced Tilestad sneered. My name is Torvas. It is the existence that will replace Balagang in the future. It looked at Naruto disdainfully. A mere god of death, how dare to be so rampant in my territory. He also hunted down so many ghosts. But, you have stopped here. Since you want to see mine so much if you are strong, then you have to be mentally prepared. Tremble, O humble death. Torvus stretched out his palm towards Naruto. The next moment, a fist-sized black flash suddenly appeared in his palm. A powerful air force immediately enveloped Naruto, holding him firmly in place, making it very difficult to move. So strong. Really strong. But Naruto didn't show the slightest fear on his face. He firmly pulled out Zanpakuto and stared at the other side's virtual flash with all his strength. Gotta get out of the way. Otherwise, I am afraid I will be smashed to pieces. Naruto thought so. Nailu was also shocked, but when she saw that Naruto was in danger, she immediately screamed, "Don't. Don't hurt Naruto." Tobas glanced at Nailu and frowned slightly, "It's annoying." Boom. The next moment, its figure suddenly flashed slightly, and then it returned to its original place, and a faint phantom overlapped with him. And Nailu's body has already suffered a heavy blow. Fly out. Naruto's pupils shrank suddenly. So fast. Quickly, there is no way to respond at all. I can only watch Nailu being knocked into the air by it. Nailu. Naruto called out, but saw that Nailu had fallen to the ground, unconscious. With one blow, Nailu lost her ability to move. Is this Vastord? Existence beyond the level of Captain. Cold sweat broke out on Naruto's forehead. At this time, Torvus didn't seem to have moved, and aimed at himself with the black flicker in his palm. Naruto bit Kiba. Under this powerful spiritual pressure, he slammed his feet and charged towards the opponent on his own initiative. Uzumaki in his hand slashed towards Torvus with an indomitable aura. Swish. The white blade light flashed, and Naruto's body appeared in front of Torvus. But I saw Torvus smiled disdainfully and said lightly, "It's too slow." Then, it stretched out a hand and squeezed it lightly. The next moment, Naruto's Zanpakuto seemed to be delivered to it, and it was directly held by it. Naruto was startled again, but suddenly, a blackness suddenly appeared in front of him. Thorvey's palm is aimed at his head. The black flicker in the palm is exuding the momentum of destruction. Oops. At this moment, Naruto almost subconsciously gave up Zanpakuto and used Shunpo to escape from here. Because if you are hit by this virtual flash, you will definitely die. However, just as he was about to let go, an idea suddenly came from Uzumaki. Can't let go. Zanpakuto is your best friend. Your partner is being held back, you must not run away. Otherwise, you will lose this power. Naruto's body shook violently. Right, the power of Zanpakuto. At this moment, Torvus's faint voice came, "You are really weak. You want to fight against me with this level of strength. I hope you don't do this kind of death-seeking behavior again in the next life." Boom. A black phantom flashed out. Cross the desert where Naruto's head falls behind. In an instant, the entire ground shook, and the strong explosion caused a storm in the desert in the distance. And Naruto's body suddenly became illusory. Torvus couldn't help but be slightly startled. I saw Naruto's body slowly solidifying in another place. This is fast enough that ultimate produces ghosting. Just like Torvus attacked Nailu just now. Strange, to be able to break free from my shackles and dodge my attack. It's interesting. Torvus didn't expect that he didn't hit him at such a close distance, so he couldn't help but be greatly surprised. At this time, Naruto closed his eyes, and a white spiritual arrogance emerged from his body. In consciousness, Kunai looked at Naruto with a solemn expression. "Naruto, now you are in an unprecedented crisis," she said. Naruto nodded. "I know, but my current strength is still too weak." "Hey, originally, I wanted you to slowly master my power, but now it seems that there is no time for you to do so." Chunai sighed slightly. "As of now, I will temporarily release my power. Come out, help you through this time. Shikai." "Really? It's really Shikai?" Naruto was a little excited when he heard it. He didn't expect that Chunai would be able to help him complete Shikai before he had practiced. Yes, I liberate my power to you, but there is also a hidden worry. Chennai frowned slightly and said worriedly, my power was originally suppressing some kind of power in your body. Now that I have forcibly released my power to you, the suppression of that thing has become much weaker, which will have a very bad influence on you in the future. What? There are other powers in my body? Naruto couldn't help but exclaimed. 892. Zanpakuto Liberation. Yes, there is another power in your body. I didn't notice it at first, but recently that power is getting more and more rampant and growing. Isn't it? The 10 tails have already left my body, how come other powers suddenly emerged this time? And why haven't I felt it myself? Naruto asked in surprise. Kunai looked at Naruto and shook his head. That's not 10 tails, nor any other external power, but something that grew up from the depths of your soul. It can be said that it is a power derived from yourself. But this power cannot be controlled by you, and once it escapes, it will occupy your mind. Quote. Could it be false? Naruto was startled. Maybe it is. I don't know much about these things, but now you don't have to worry. My strength can suppress it, and now the most important thing is to solve the immediate crisis. Chennai pressed his shoulders and closed eyes. Naruto, now I will release part of my power to you. You have to experience it. When Naruto heard the words, he immediately cleared his mind, closed his eyes, and a powerful spiritual force flowed into his body. Outside world. Naruto finally opened his eyes, and a firmness flashed in his blue pupils. Anyway, let's get rid of this powerful enemy now. In the body, spiritual power is constantly pouring up. Moreover, this spiritual power is still producing a series of changes. Uzumaki, in both hands and held it up high. Shikai, let's dance. Uzumaki. With his almost instinctive voice, Zanpakuto in Naruto's hands suddenly emitted a dazzling white light. After the white light, Uzumaki did not change, but the blade became more perfect and sharp. At the same time, the biggest change is the breath of Naruto. Hoo hoo hoo. A violent gust of wind rolled up around him, and in the gust of wind, Naruto held Uzumaki in his hand, and the spiritual energy and arrogance on his body almost turned into a substance, soaring into the sky. Reiatsu Crazy Boost. How is that possible? Torvus saw that Naruto actually used Shikai, but what was shocking was that after his Shikai, the spiritual pressure was not only improved, but increased exponentially. Boom boom boom. The earth shook, and the sand was flying wildly, and with Naruto at the center, the wild sand rolled up around him almost overturned the entire earth. Torvus looked at Naruto in shock. I've never seen such a powerful Shikai, is this still Shikai? This guy, it's not easy. At this moment, Naruto's aura became extremely powerful. Even Thorvey felt frightened. Actually, Shikai alone has risen to the power of Vastord. Beyond the captain level. How could this be? Who the hell are you? It's impossible for an ordinary Shikai to be this strong. Torvus roared. He, who had been calm just now, couldn't help but feel agitated. Swish. Almost in an instant, Naruto appeared next to Nailu in a blink of an eye. He gently picked up her delicate body, checked a little, and found that her life was not in any danger, then flashed out again. Now behind another dune, keep her away from the battlefield here. So fast. Torva's eyes flashed. Naruto's speed at this time was completely different from before. It's almost impossible to catch with the naked eye. The next moment, Naruto appeared in front of Torvus in another instant. Let's start. Let's have a good fight. Naruto raised Zanpakuto flatly, pointing to the opponent's chest and said coldly. Seeing his arrogant appearance, Torvaston became angry. Damn. A mere trash god of death. How dare you be so arrogant? I want you to know that even after Shikai, there is a difference of 108,000 with me. Okay, let's try it. Naruto is now very confident in his own strength. He didn't give up Zanpakuto just now, and China released his power. This power is incredible. Humph. Arrogant guy. Torvus snorted angrily, and the next moment it suddenly charged towards Naruto. fast enough to barely see a shadow. Naruto's eyes flashed. He accurately captured the opponent's movements, and he moved in an instant, and he rushed up with Zanpakuto tightly. Boom! Naruto's knife slashed on Torva's outstretched arm. A bone blade condensed on Torva's arm, and the blade instantly blocked Naruto's Zanpakuto. A burst of intense sparks bloomed in an instant, and the strength of the two even directly stirred up a layer of air waves, rippling towards the surroundings, and even the ground shook. So strong. The two sides looked at each other, and both saw a strong fighting intent in each other's eyes. Naruto didn't expect that Shikai's power was so strong, that he could actually compete with the existence of the Vastord level. Your strength is really good. Torvus snorted coldly, and the next moment the two separated again, facing each other from a distance. Naruto only felt that his own strength was constantly increasing, and the powerful spiritual energy arrogance wrapped around his body, almost turning into substance, and the air was stirred by this strength, causing gusts of wind. Take me a trick. Void. Torvus suddenly stretched out his palm, and the black void in his palm slammed into Naruto. This time, Naruto was fearless. He dodged the blow, and the figure suddenly came to Torvus in a few blinks, and slashed it with a knife. Boom! Torvus raised his arm to block, but was shaken by the force and slid backwards. The power has increased again. Torvus couldn't believe it. Naruto, on the other hand, was immersed in the feeling that the power was constantly surging in his body. He chased after the victory without even giving the opponent a chance to react. He rushed towards Torvus and launched a series of crazy attacks. Bang bang bang. Boom boom boom. The powerful spiritual pressure collided, making a muffled sound in the air. The surrounding ground was shaken, and the wind swept around with the flying sand, covering the sky and the sun. Torvus became more and more frightened as he fought. Naruto's combat experience was stronger than him, and his movements were also flawless. Coupled with the power that was comparable to that of Vastord, he suddenly fell into a passive state. Damn, you rubbish death god, don't give me an inch. Torvus roared, and he suddenly burst out with a powerful spiritual pressure, and dozens of sharp blades appeared on the surface of his body. The next moment, he spun and rolled towards Naruto. 893. A narrow victory. Ding 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 ding. There was a burst of sparks in the air, and Naruto's Zanpakuto slashed countless knives at Torvus' swirling body. But he was beaten back and forth again and again. This time, Torvus has the upper hand again. Naruto frowned slightly. The opponent has sharp blades all over his body, and he will cut him if he is not careful. How tricky. Worthy of being a Vastord-level virtuoso. Strength is strong. But obviously Naruto will not admit defeat. Under the urging of this powerful spiritual force in his body, Shunbu is more handy, and the speed is so fast that people can hardly see it. The next moment, he unfolded the blinking step and flashed towards Torvus. Torvus sneered. It's useless. All attacks can't break my blade storm. After speaking, his entire body spun again, and the next moment he rushed towards Naruto. Naruto flickered again and again. Shunko didn't dare to stop, but because the opponent's rotation speed was so fast that the naked eye couldn't see it clearly, he couldn't find a flaw to attack at all. If Zanpakuto is stretched out rashly, I am afraid that the entire arm will be twisted by this spinning force. It seems, had to use other methods. Naruto raised Uzumaki high, and his whole body was concentrated on Zanpakuto. His Zanpakuto flashed a dazzling white light again. Since ordinary physical attacks can't be approached, just tear it apart with a knife. Thinking like this, Naruto's Zanpakuto condensed more and more spiritual power. However, Torvus also noticed Naruto's movements. The next moment, it suddenly turned faster, and a sandstorm was brought around. I saw that with him at the center. 100-meter-high sandstorm tornado spread out towards the surroundings, obscuring Naruto's sight for a while. Sudden. A little bit of cold light flew away from the yellow sand in the sky, and a dangerous breath rushed toward the face. Naruto was startled subconsciously, and he hurriedly stopped Zanpakuto in front of him. When there was a crisp sound, the blade shook. Immediately afterwards, the yellow sand suddenly shot a large blade of cold light flashing. What? Are these sharp blades from Torvas? Naruto was suddenly caught off guard. These sharp blades were like a rain of hidden weapons, centered on Torvas' rotating body, and launched a series of indiscriminate bombardments around him. He hurriedly flew back and at the same time danced into a blade shadow with Zanpakuto in front of him, resisting the overwhelming sharp blades. Each of these sharp blades has a piercing power that is enough to penetrate steel, and Naruto's Zanpakuto swung out again and again, his arm almost numb. No. If it goes on like this, it will definitely not be able to resist being shot through. Naruto was secretly anxious. Suddenly, he thought of some ghost ways that Yi had taught before. Although I haven't learned much by myself, there is just one trick that can come in handy. Thinking of this, he condensed the spiritual power of his whole body. The Zanpakuto in his hand was spinning rapidly, and the other hand was pinched into a finger sword, and the whole body's strength was condensed. The 39 circular gate fan. With a light drink, a circular blue light shield suddenly appeared in front of Naruto's knife-holding arm. Cover his entire body behind. The next moment, countless sharp blades bombarded the light shield. Naruto retreated again and again, and the spiritual power surged out of his body, resisting Torvas' attack. After a long time, Torvas stopped attacking. Naruto finally dispersed the light shield. The venue was filled with yellow sand, and Naruto could hardly see the other side. A gust of wind blew, and the bodies of both of them were exposed. Both of them were breathing slightly and looked at each other. What a tenacious guy, Torvas laughed. HMPH, you can't beat me, Naruto said proudly. Really, do you think your strength can give you self-confidence? Torvas said, I'm going to kill you with one move next. Wait and see, Naruto replied with a sneer. He, Torvas laughed gloomily. Naruto frowned, and suddenly had a bad feeling. Does this guy still have some powerful tricks? With extreme vigilance, he stared at Torvas. Torvas suddenly flew high into the sky. He was in midair, his hands suddenly folded, and a huge spiritual pressure emerged from his body. Naruto stared at him closely, preventing his next move. Sudden. A strong sense of crisis spread from all directions and surrounded him. Almost suffocated him. Not good. Almost subconsciously, Naruto leapt towards the sky. The next moment, the earth shook. Swish swish. Countless slender sharp blades protruded from the ground, covering every corner of the venue in 0.01 seconds. Countless sharp blades flashing with cold light, staggered pointing to the sky, each of them is more than 10 meters long. The desert has become a forest. Of course, a forest of sharp blades. Torvas was panting in midair, watching the cold light flickering under his feet, and murmured, "This guy, has he finally been killed?" Shock. The next moment, Torvas turned around suddenly. I saw Naruto's body appeared behind him at some point. Holding the Zanpakuto tightly in his hand, he lifted it up high, and the blade was shining brightly. How is that possible? Torvas exclaimed. At the same time, Naruto's Zanpakuto slashed forward fiercely. Can't dodge. Swish. Almost in an instant, a bright white knife light flashed, and Torvas' body was split into two halves. It was still exclaiming in disbelief, I actually lost. The bright white knife light split Torvas' body, slammed into the desert below, and another strong explosion broke out. The yellow sand was everywhere, and Naruto appeared next to Nailu in the distance in a blink of an eye. He murmured, "No one in this world is invincible." There were also a few sharp knives stuck in his body, and Naruto reached out and pulled it out, tying the wound with his clothes. He was severely exhausted and panting violently, picked up Nailu's body, and ran out of the inner circle in a flash. Can't stay here any longer. 894. Ascension and Departure. Unexpectedly, he killed a Vastord-level existence, and Naruto quickly ran out of the inner circle with Nailu in his arms, and ran for a long distance before finally stopping. He was lying on the ground at once, bruised all over his body. These wounds were wounded by that Torva's last big move in the battle just now. In fact, Naruto was almost killed this time. The sharp blade storm that Torva's used before, and the countless sharp blades that flew out were all over the center of the field, and in the end, Torva's ultimate move was to make these scattered sharp blades suddenly stretch, so that the entire field appeared. Come countless sharp blades. And Naruto was in the center of these sharp blades. If he hadn't sensed the dangerous aura in advance and had a strong fighting instinct, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to dodge these attacks at all. Even so, Naruto didn't dodge all of it, and several holes were poked out in his body, and he was about to be pierced by 10,000 arrows. At the last moment, he finally used the spiritual power of his entire body to cut out a knife, killing Torvas, who had just finished his ultimate move and was slack. The danger in it, only he knows. However, after finally overcoming this difficulty, Torvas has the strength to defeat Nailu with one blow. If Naruto hadn't temporarily liberated Zanpakuto, he might not be an opponent at all. Speaking of which, after the liberation of his Zanpakuto, there was no change in his form. The biggest change was the skyrocketing strength of his whole body, which increased several times at once. Because of this, he was able to feel Thorve dangerously. However, now he is also exhausted, and there are scars all over his body. Fortunately, he is now running a long distance, and those guys in the virtual circle will not catch up for a while. Naruto lay on the ground for a while, only to feel the power in his body gradually fading. It seems that Zanpakuto's liberation has been lifted again, returning to a normal state, but at the same time, another incomparably powerful spiritual force crazy pouring from all around. Naruto trembled all over. This is, after killing Torvith, absorb his energy. Naruto's body suddenly emitted a dazzling white light, and his body suddenly slowly floated into the air. This power is so strong. Naruto closed his eyes, absorbing this energy while refining it continuously in his body. At this time, Nailu woke up faintly. She saw Naruto floating in the air, full of spiritual energy, and she was surprised to find that Naruto's wounds were actually visible to the naked eye under the stimulation of spiritual energy. The speed of healing up. She looked around and found that the position at this time seemed to be no longer where it was. It seemed that Naruto brought her here. Didn't the big virtual at the Vastord level come after him? Nailu was puzzled. However, seeing Naruto's whole body pulsing with spiritual energy, his spiritual pressure almost reached the level of Vastord. Nailu suddenly understood in her heart. Naruto defeated that Vastord. Beyond that, there is no better reason to explain the phenomenon at hand. Only after defeating Wastrode can the two of them escape, and only after defeating each other can Naruto's power skyrocket. Thinking of this, Nailu was overjoyed, and she was happy for Naruto's strength. That's great, Nailu murmured, looking at Naruto's figure. After an unknown amount of time, Naruto finally woke up faintly, the spiritual pressure on his body became calm, and his body slowly landed on the ground. Naruto, you've become so strong again. Nailu immediately jumped up, threw herself into his arms, and shouted excitedly. Naruto glanced at her and hugged her gently. Nailu, you're awake too, are you alright? I'm fine, it's just that you must have experienced a very hard battle just now, right? I'm really useless, I can't help at all. Nailu shook her head and said with a look of self-blame. Naruto looked down at her and suddenly sighed. Nailu, I'm afraid I'm leaving. What? Naruto, what did you say? Nailu was taken aback for a moment, then she said suddenly, what are you saying to leave? Where are you going? I'm leaving this world, Nailu. Yes, after Naruto defeated Thorvith, he absorbed his energy, and the strength of his spiritual power was several times higher than before, reaching the level of Vastord. Under this level of spiritual power, he can even feel the position of his body in the turbulent time and space, and he also has a strong feeling that his soul seems to be attracted by a force, as if it will be sucked into another time and space at any time. This is the suction from the body, and it is the power that comes after the spiritual power reaches a certain level and the conditions for returning to the body are met. Nailu suddenly hugged Naruto's body tightly. No, Naruto, why are you leaving? Upon hearing the news, Nailu couldn't accept it. How could Naruto leave her so suddenly? Because I have to leave, I still have a mission to complete. Nailu, you have to promise me to live well, and I will definitely come to you in the future. Naruto only felt that the power was getting stronger and stronger. Behind him, suddenly a void black hole appeared, and a powerful force was tearing at him, trying to bring him in, but seeing Nailu's unbelievable look on his face, he felt a little uncomfortable. Nailu also saw that black hole. Tears suddenly overflowed from her eyes, soaking her fair face. Naruto, where are you going? Can you take me with you? Although Nailu knew that Naruto would leave her sooner or later, she didn't expect Naruto to leave so quickly and suddenly, and, where was the world behind the empty black hole? How can I find him in the future? Naruto didn't tell her all this, and she was full of doubts. Nailu. Naruto stretched out his hand and lightly pressed it on her head. The other hand was helping her to wipe the tears that rolled out. A big smile appeared on his face. No need sad, I will definitely come back. You have to live well. I'm really sorry this time. I can't go down with you, but you have to believe that leaving is only temporary, and I will definitely come back to you in the future. There are some things that I will explain to you when I come back, but I can't take you with me this time. You have to constantly hone yourself in the virtual circle and make yourself stronger, do you know? Seeing Nailu holding himself even tighter, Naruto gently pushed her away and said again. Nailu burst into tears, watching the black hole behind Naruto getting bigger and bigger, and her reluctance to part became stronger and stronger. But unfortunately, Naruto had to leave. No matter how reluctant she was, she didn't want to go against his will. Hey, Naruto, you promised me that you must come back. I will continue to become stronger as you said. You can't talk without saying anything. It seemed that she finally accepted Naruto's departure. Nailu wiped the tears that were rolling down her face with her hands and shouted to Naruto. I know, I will definitely come back. You have to live well. A huge suction suddenly came from the empty cave behind Naruto's body, and the next moment he absorbed his whole body. Then, the black hole disappeared, and Nailu slumped on the ground, staring blankly at the direction Naruto left. You promised me that you must come back. You must come back, Nailu murmured. 895. The Essence of Power 1. Naruto didn't expect that he would leave so suddenly. He even thought that it would take a long time before he could go back again, just like the previous worlds. This time, however, was clearly an exception. The separation from Nailu, of course, made him feel uncomfortable. It was a last resort to leave her alone in the virtual circle, because he couldn't bring her over. If he did that, Nailu might be directly drowned in the turbulent time and space. Inside. I'm sorry, Nailu, I will definitely come back to you in the future. Naruto fell into a black hole, and his soul drifted into the turbulent flow of time and space. At this moment, what he felt most owed to him was Nailu. However, Naruto was also pleasantly surprised to be able to come to this space-time turbulent space so easily. In the past, he wanted to open the door of time and space without any results. Now, he can directly enter here without any means. Compared with the past, it is a huge breakthrough. But now Naruto belongs to the soul body, and he is not affected by these violent chaotic space energy in the turbulent flow of time and space. Instead, he floats in this huge vast and boundless chaotic space, observing everything around him. Here, apart from chaos, there is no other room. All Naruto perceives is a void of energy swaying around, as if he is in the depths of the ocean. This is the chaotic space. I didn't observe it well before. This time, I must take this opportunity to study it, Ningxin thought. At this time, he was still wearing the same attire as before in the virtual circle, with Zanpakuto on his waist. It seems that the power of this death god did not disappear because it left the virtual circle. Naruto tried to pull out Zanpakuto and slashed into the void. No response. Naruto was stunned for a moment. Afterwards, he tried the ghost way, but there was no response. His heart sank suddenly. Has the power of the god of death disappeared again? But the Zanpakuto that Kina transformed into is still there. He closed his eyes, and his mind sank into the sea of consciousness. As soon as he entered, Chennai's voice rang out. Naruto, where are you now? Why is there so much chaotic energy around you? I am in the turbulent flow of time and space. This place is the space I experienced every time I traveled through the world before. Here I call it the chaotic space. Naruto said. Well, that's the case. I didn't expect such a strange space to exist. This time I finally saw it. Kinai didn't know much about this. At this time, she also observed the outside world in Naruto's body. With a strange look on his face. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to use the power, but I found that the previous power can't be used again, and the Zanpakuto you incarnated can't use it. Why is this? Naruto asked again. When Chennai heard the words, he pondered for a while, and said slowly, before in that world called Void Circle, I borrowed my power to use you. That little girl named Yi said that this is Zanpakuto. I don't understand very well, but in that world, we can use a kind of power called spiritual power, and here, although I feel that our soul power has not decreased, but it cannot be embodied in this space and use it, it is probably because there is no spiritual power in this space, and there is a force in this space that repels and suppresses the spiritual power contained in our souls, so we cannot use spiritual power here. Quote. What you said makes sense. Naruto nodded and said, a flash of enlightenment suddenly flashed in his heart, as if he had understood a certain truth, but he couldn't explain it clearly. The worlds I had experienced before appeared one by one before my eyes, the ninjutsu in Hokage, the yin and yang energy in that world after that, then again, magic power, and now spiritual power. This series of energy seems to be unique to each world. In the previous world, those forces are often unable to be applied to the next world. But Ten Tails can survive and spread the virus in that world. Where does his power come from? Moreover, in that world, he has mastered the supreme power, but he is helpless to the powerful spirit of Ten Tails. Naruto has a kind of insight. Power, what is it? He found that his transcendence and the power he used in every world could not be simply described as incredible and unexpected. Among them, there must be some scientific truths, but these truths cannot be fully understood by one's own level of knowledge. So, why do you practice power? How to study power? Naruto suddenly felt that there seemed to be a whole new world in front of him, a realm full of unknowns. In his heart, all the doubts and confusions accumulated in the past seemed to be resolved. Naruto, maybe I understand what you're thinking. At this moment, Kina suddenly said, every world has different power systems, but what is the most fundamental thing? Naruto was stunned for a moment, and then blurted out, it's our consciousness. Yes, consciousness. That is our heart, soul. Kinai nodded. Understood. I finally understand. Naruto suddenly laughed. Kina suddenly laughed too, with a very bright smile. It's the heart. It's the heart. At this moment, Naruto stepped into a whole new realm. This is not a progress in strength, but a breakthrough in his understanding and an understanding of the world and even the universe. Countless dimensions and spaces are just a drop in the vast ocean, and each dimension has its own power system. Naruto travels to a space, and the body and mind are rooted in that space. Power will be repelled by that world and cannot be used, because there is no such power in this world. However, he can cultivate the power of that world right now. And after Naruto left the Hokage world, it was exactly like this, and he cultivated other powers step by step. However, in the zombie world, the power that Naruto has cultivated is not actually the chakra of the Hokage world. It is a special energy that belongs to that world. Looking back now, Naruto feels that he was a master at that time. Power is not a power that belongs to one's own body. More precisely, it is just borrowed power. At the last moment, it seems to have borrowed the power of the entire world for its own use, so it is possible to exert such a powerful power, even it is able to come back to life and change time and space. 896. The essence of power 2. What is the nature of power? In the past, Naruto thought he understood very well, but until this moment, he realized that his previous understanding was too superficial. Power, energy, itself exists in every dimension, it is a ubiquitous thing. But how to make a person who has no power to cultivate strength? In the past, Naruto believed that strength is the potential that exists in the body, and it will be gradually generated with the exercise of oneself. Now, Naruto has rejected this view. What is the nature of power? Is the heart. That is soul and spiritual power. Heart, soul, spiritual power, in fact, all refer to the same thing, that is, the existence of self. Different world dimensions have different energies. The cultivation of these energies is actually just the capture of the power of this world by the heart. Example, chakra in the world of Hokage. If Naruto wants to practice this power, he must first experience the feeling of chakra with his heart, and use the power of his heart to grow and capture chakra step by step. The same is true of the spiritual power of the world of death. This is why Naruto finds the power of the previous world unusable once he travels to another world. Because, in the current world, his heart cannot understand and communicate the power that belongs to another world. Therefore, Naruto will have a feeling that his power is suppressed, because the power of another world and dimension that entered the body before is suppressed by the power system of this world. The power contained in one person, of course, cannot resist the power of the whole world. To put it simply, the cultivation of strength requires the communication of the heart, and the communication of the heart can only be the current world where the body is located. Therefore, Naruto can only cultivate the power system of the current world and become stronger step by step to break the rules. However, no matter how strong Naruto is, Naruto only has infinite power in the current world. His heart can't communicate with the power of other worlds, so he can't achieve a breakthrough, which is why he can't help himself every time he crosses the reason for not being able to master his own destiny. And now, Naruto finally understood the source of all power. It is the cultivation of the heart. He has an idea that if spiritual cultivation is strong to a certain extent, he will definitely be able to communicate with other dimensions. That is to say, one day in the future, even in the world of death, Naruto can use chakra in Hokage, magic, and even other energies, because his heart is strong enough to communicate with other dimensions. Level. And the quickest shortcut to cultivate the mind is to cultivate spiritual power in the world of the god of death. The cultivation of spiritual power can most effectively strengthen the mind, because spiritual power is the power that directly acts on Naruto's soul. It seems that the trip to the world of death is essential in the future. Knowing all this, Naruto had a feeling of seeing the blue sky when he pushed aside the clouds and mist, and his heart was relieved. Kunai looked at him with a smile on his face. Naruto, congratulations on you finally realizing it. Naruto smiled lightly. I didn't realize it until now, I think it's a bit late. No, you are really a genius, I just realized a little bit, I didn't expect that you can directly comprehend so many things. Naruto smiled and touched his nose. Okay, let's not talk about you, I just happen to have something to talk to you about. Kina waved her hand. What's the matter? It's about the liberation of my power before, and the liberation of that power is called Shikai, isn't it? Naruto nodded. Kunai said, however, this liberation is not complete. At that time, I just liberated my power to you, but you did not seem to immediately master the changes in it. That is to say, the Shikai in that state is incomplete, you need just retrain and master yourself. So that's what it is, that is to say, is it just the effect of you pouring your power into me? Naruto pondered for a while, then raised his head and asked. Yes, when I saw that you were in crisis, I gave you the greatest power I could transmit to you. In fact, you don't have a way to use the power of master, that is to say, you will not be able to use it in the future. Shikai, who can do whatever you want, has to get my permission. But don't worry, you can use my power as you like. Kunai said, blinking again. Ah, isn't it the same? I can use it no matter what. Naruto broke into a sweat when he heard her last words. Wrong. Kunai suddenly and solemnly rejected him. Don't think that my power is your power, because I exist in your soul and cannot be separated from your soul, but you must master my power, slowly turn my power into your power. Because deep within your body, there is another power watching me. What? Naruto was taken aback. Seeing his surprised appearance, Kunai added, but don't worry, no matter how much that power peeps at me, I'll be on your side, we can deal with that guy together, that guy is definitely not ours. Opponent. Is that so? Who is that guy? Naruto breathed a sigh of relief and asked again. I don't know yet, because I only vaguely feel the power of that guy, but I still can't know what the guy is. Maybe we won't know until the guy comes out. Kunai held Naruto's. He leaned over his shoulders, leaned in front of him, and suddenly looked at him very gently and said, don't worry, I will definitely protect you. Naruto trembled slightly, and a warm current flowed through his heart. Okay, everything is explained clearly. Next, let's find a way to find the body here, and we will return to the previous world. These are all problems, but I have no clue. Kunai smiled slightly and let Naruto leave the space of consciousness. Naruto woke up, opened his eyes, and reinserted Zanpakuto into the scabbard. This power is now unusable, and it seems that he can only use it when he returns to the world of death. And now, he must find his body in this chaotic space full of time and space turbulence. The Golden Miracle of Hokage. Author. Existence is not lonely. Equals 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 equals. ABC Amber CHM Converter 7.37. Trial version. Equals 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 equals. Fiction classification infinite crossing. Fiction status serialization. Fiction address. Open black lens bracket brief introduction close black lens bracket. Crossing into Naruto. Behind the smile of sunshine is a lonely heart. Only by constantly becoming stronger and finding a way back is the biggest driving force for his struggle. However, every beauty and every bond, let his heart start to shake. This book is absolutely suitable for 99% of readers. Lonely Shot, must be a boutique. Solemn reminder, this story is purely fictitious. Any similarity is purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Open black lens bracket organization instructions close black lens bracket. All the information comes from the public channels on the internet. I just collected and organized the messy resources, and made them free of charge for the convenience of everyone's reading. The copyright of the novel belongs to the original author, please do not use it for commercial purposes. Another, if you think this novel is good, try to go to the first publishing website to support the author. It is not easy for the author to write a book, please recommend it, please collect it. If you have the financial ability, please subscribe or give a reward. Let the author write happily novel for everyone to read. 897. Immortal Realm. Naruto closed his eyes again, no longer looking at the chaotic energy in front of him, he carefully felt everything around him. The advantage of the spirit body is that the surrounding energies can't cause any damage to themselves, no matter how violent they are. Moreover, as long as he calms down, he can feel the call from his body. Feeling carefully, this call is getting stronger and stronger, and there is a powerful suction that pulls him over. Next moment. I saw Naruto's soul body suddenly moved quickly in a certain direction. Naruto closed his eyes, and while carefully experiencing this power, he let his soul be guided forward by this power. Suddenly, he was shocked. Open your eyes, a body is approaching rapidly. Into his sight. Under the chaotic space and power, the whole body eating guago floats there, and the clothes on his body have long disappeared. This is indeed my body. When Naruto saw this scene, he was excited for a while, but he didn't expect that he actually found his body and really wanted to return to his body. At this moment, a big stone in Naruto's heart fell. He thought that after the separation of his soul and flesh, the road in the future would be even more difficult, but he didn't expect everything to be very smooth, and he achieved his goal in such a short period of time. The next moment, Naruto's thoughts moved, and that power suddenly hit, and then he felt that he had returned to the body. It's a strange feeling. If I had to describe it, it would be as if the naked person had put on their clothes again, but there was no discomfort, but a long-lost feeling of comfort. The body is finally back. At this moment, Naruto felt that he had become sinking. After the soul was separated, the feeling of lightness disappeared, and there was a very solid feeling. At the same time, the 5 senses of the body are back. It's so nostalgic. After the soul is separated, although it also feels like a real body in the world of death, it is still different from the feeling of the real body now. This is an indescribable difference, only Naruto can carefully experience it. The fingers moved, Naruto opened his eyes faintly, and the bones of the whole body suddenly crackled. It seems that I haven't moved my body for a long time. Naruto's body in the turbulent flow of time and space was invaded, washed and tempered by heavy chaotic energy. Suddenly, the violent chaotic energy in the body attacked Naruto's soul consciousness, just as he wanted to erode and assimilate him at the beginning. However, at this moment, Naruto's soul has been tempered in the world of death, and it is not what it used to be. How can it be disturbed by this danger? His consciousness was slightly condensed, and he suppressed this chaotic energy almost instantly, and completely controlled the power in his body. This is a feeling of doing whatever you want. The energy in the body is no longer violent, but gentle. It's great. I didn't expect my body to be tempered in this turbulent time and space, and it's tougher than before. Naruto murmured, and a hoarse sound came from his throat because he hadn't spoken for a long time. The sound of. The next moment, Naruto stretched out his hand and swiped in the void, and a black hole suddenly appeared in front of him. Then, his body took a step toward the black hole, and the whole person disappeared in the turbulent time and space. He controlled the power of chaos, and suddenly discovered that he was omnipotent at this moment. Even opening the doorway of time and space is so natural. Moreover, it seems that he can easily find the mark leading to the previous world in his spirit. The sky was clear, the sea was calm, and a black doorway suddenly formed in the space. Then, a naked man appeared here. It's Naruto. He stood in the void, his eyes looking around, his eyes filled with nostalgia. Finally back here. The breath here is indeed Urza's world. I never thought that I would be able to come back. Naruto thought so. Suddenly, his body shook slightly, and the whole person suddenly fell into a strange state. After the chaotic energy filled everywhere in his body was controlled to become mild, it seemed that another change had occurred. In an instant, Naruto only felt that his soul and body were being rejected by the entire world around him. Another black hole appeared in the void, trying to suck him in. Naruto was surprised. What happened? Is the world rejecting you? Are you going to be sucked back? Go to an unknown world? Or that chaotic space? No, absolutely cannot leave here now. Naruto runs the chaotic energy in his body with powerful spiritual power, trying to resist the whole world. The surrounding space vibrated violently, and circles of space ripples rippled, and I saw that the sea under Naruto's feet suddenly became violent, rolling up layers of waves. Absolutely cannot be kicked out of this world. No one can deny my existence. Not even the whole world. Naruto was shouting in his heart. At this moment, scenes flashed in his heart. It was Ulu, Urza, Mirage, Lucy, and all the fetters he encountered in this world. Under this belief, the surrounding space suddenly stopped shaking, and the void black hole gradually dissipated. However, the powerful soul power in the body is blending with the gentle chaos power, and the two merge with each other, and then gradually disappear. I don't know how long it took. Naruto's momentum became weaker and weaker, and finally disappeared, and his whole person fell into the sea with a thud. The sea was calm again. Naruto's body sank into the bottom of the sea little by little. At this time, he felt that there was no chaotic energy in his body, but he had a strange feeling that the body and soul had been fused together, regardless of each other. A Zanpakuto was hanging around his waist at some point, and he sank into the sea with him. In fact, this is a fusion of the highest realm. Even Naruto himself didn't know that although the supreme chaotic power in his body disappeared, his soul and body have been permanently fused together, that is to say, his soul and body will never be separated again in the future. The soul is the body is the soul. The soul is immortal and the body is immortal. And as long as the body is immortal, the soul is immortal. This is almost the realm of immortality. 898. Goodbye Yiren. In the sea, Naruto has a feeling of wandering in the sky. At this moment, the combination of body and soul has made him a special existence. Because it can be said that he has no soul and no body, but he does have a body and a soul, and he does exist in this world. If he insisted on talking about his current situation, it would only be summed up in one sentence. Jump out of the three realms, not in the five elements. Free and easy between heaven and earth. This kind of state can be met but not sought after. Even if it is the six paths immortal, it is not immortal. It can be said that if he continues to live like this, Naruto will become an eternal existence. Of course, he will not live in peace like this. He has many things to do. He wants to transcend the laws of everything in this world, and he wants to conquer the shackles of the entire space and time. Therefore, even if he has such a breakthrough, he will not stop there. He needs power. The body was sinking into the sea little by little, and the sea water continued to wash away, squeezing him. In front of Naruto was a deep sea, and he only felt that the light was getting darker and darker. He couldn't move his whole body at this time, and the whole person fell into an inexplicable feeling of the fusion of spirit and flesh. He was experiencing this state, and he found that in this state, he knew every part of his body like the back of his hand, and could manipulate every part of his body as he wanted. With a slight movement of the arm, there is a feeling of lightness. Suddenly, his whole body trembled, and he felt an aura approaching rapidly behind him. What it is? Naruto has not fully recovered his mobility at this time. Is it some inexplicable danger? His heart tightened, and just as he was about to make some moves, a pair of arms already hugged him firmly. Soft, smooth, with a special touch. This feeling is... Naruto turned back with difficulty, but saw a somewhat familiar face. Hi, Hylantia. Naruto called out in surprise, and a series of blisters burst out of his mouth. You, finally appeared. I've been waiting for this moment for too long. A faint voice came, and then the water around Naruto was empty, and he found himself in a hollow blister. Aqua-blue waist-length hair, beautiful aqua-blue pupils, and aqua-blue robes. Who is this water dragon Hylantia? At this moment, her delicate face was full of excitement and joy, and looking at Naruto's eyes almost melted him. That's great. I thought you were dead. That's great. Hylantia hugged Naruto's body and hugged him only. Naruto came back here again, and he was full of things to say. Hylantia, I'm not dead, I just left for a while. By the way, how long have I been away? Naruto asked tentatively. After all, in the turbulent flow of time and space, all the laws of time and space are chaotic, and there is chaos there. Although he feels that he has not been away for a long time, every dimension and world is different. I'm really afraid that when I come back this time, will it be 100 years or 1,000 years later? In that case, where do you go to find Yiren? You don't even know how long you've been away. It's been 7 years. Naruto, I've been following your news for the past 7 years. It is rumored that you and the people from Fairy Tail were wiped out by the Black Dragon. But I know you will never die so easily, it seems that you must have gone somewhere, but now, you are finally back. Heilantia said. What? 7 years? Naruto was shocked. Moreover, Heilantia actually said, but the other people who were together were also wiped out by the Black Dragon. Suddenly, the world was spinning in his mind. Elsa, Lucy, Mirage. Are they all dead? No, not possible, right? At this moment, Naruto only felt that he had suffered an unprecedented blow, and his body swayed, almost unsteady. Heilantia supported him, saw the sad expression on his face, and sighed slightly. Naruto, your companions are all dead. Unfortunately, the power of the Black Dragon is not something ordinary people can do. Counterbalanced. This is impossible, Naruto shouted almost subconsciously. He had wishful thinking that he would return to the previous moment, that is, the moment he fought the Black Dragon, but the time in this world passed faster than he imagined. In other words, are you 7 years late? Hateful. Black Dragon. Naruto now has only one strong idea left in his heart, to kill the Black Dragon. Avenge Urza and the others. Naruto, calm down first. I know you must have experienced something before appearing here, but there is one thing you should pay attention to. At that time, your companions were under the roar of the Black Dragon, together with the entire sky. Wolf Island has disappeared, and then various people from the outside world have investigated the sea area of Sirius Island, but there is no trace of it. Heilantia said again. Naruto suddenly frowned. Sirius Island disappeared. Under the attack of the Black Dragon, it is not surprising that an island disappeared. However, all of them, together with Urza, disappeared. Sage, even the Holy Ten Sorcerer, can't even find the crippled Mukuro, right? Among them, there are some strange places. Naruto suddenly closed his eyes, and let his own perception release with all his heart. In the current state, although Naruto does not have any energy in his body, after the fusion of soul and body, his perception has been sublimated, and he can sense some things that others cannot sense. The consciousness was released, and a little light suddenly appeared in his heart, that is. The next moment, he opened his eyes immediately, and a gleam of light flashed in his eyes. Heilantia, is this the sea area of Sirius Island? He turned his head and asked. Well, this is where Sirius Island was originally located, where you disappeared before. Heilantia replied. That's it. It seems that things are turning around. Naruto's eyes flickered, and a smile appeared on his face again. What do you mean? Heilantia couldn't help but be stunned. 899, Investigation. Urza and the others, maybe they're not dead. Naruto said, I sense the power I left in this world just now, and it's vaguely around here. Heilantia listened to him, her face full of doubts. Naruto looked at her and explained, it's like this, before I condensed my strength into a necklace and gave it to Lucy, and she carried it on her body, but just now, I sense the one I left behind. The call of power, but it seems that it is isolated and hidden by something. If I hadn't sensed it carefully, I would have almost been unable to perceive it. Quote. There is such a thing. Heilantia was also greatly surprised after hearing this. If Naruto is right, all the outside investigation results show that the news that all the elite units of Fairy Tail have been destroyed is not accurate. They must still exist in this world, but for some special reason they have not come out for the time being. If you say that, those people must still be alive. Naruto, it seems that your companions are not dead. Can we follow your induction to find their whereabouts? Heilantia said. Naruto nodded. Okay, let's hurry up and find it now. Heilantia pulled up Naruto and headed towards the sea. Naruto didn't have any energy in his body yet. He pulled Heilantia and suddenly said, wait, let go of the barrier first and let me touch the seawater. I have something to do first. Heilantia was stunned for a moment, and immediately released the bubble barrier. The surrounding seawater slammed into Naruto's body, but this powerful pressure had no effect on Naruto's body. Instead, he opened his arms and closed his eyes. Suddenly, Heilantia saw that the seawater around Naruto's body suddenly became violent and uneasy, and the undercurrents surged, forming an extremely violent Uzumaki with his body as the center. This is, the surrounding water elements, are all being absorbed by Naruto. Halentia was shocked, and even she found that the water magic element escaping from her body was involuntarily moving towards Naruto's go in the direction. This guy Naruto actually absorbs the magic elements of the outside world in such a direct way. Before that, there was no fluctuation of any magical element on his body. Although I don't know what happened to Naruto before, and his whole body has no magic power, but in this situation, is he recovering his magic power? This method is too direct and violent, right? His body is frantically absorbing and plundering the surrounding magic elements. Halentia looked at him in shock. After a while, the surrounding undercurrent finally calmed down, and Naruto's body with a slight movement, a stream of water moved up and down quickly under his control. Magic. Recover. Naruto glanced at Halentia and smiled slightly. The water element in this sea is too dense, resulting in a little lack of other elements. It seems that I have to go to the outside world to absorb other elements and balance the magic in my body. Elements do. His strength at the moment is no longer the level he was before. Now, after the fusion of soul and body, the control of the whole person has reached the most precise level. Moreover, although his spiritual power is offset by that chaotic energy, in this world, his spiritual power cannot be recovered, but the spiritual power and soul strength trained by spiritual power have not decreased at all, but he cannot use spiritual power in this world. Therefore, his current spiritual power and soul have been able to control countless energies. That is to say, at this moment, his strength is many times stronger than before the battle with the Black Dragon. Of course, Naruto still can't fully appreciate the benefits of combining spirit and flesh, and he needs to study it step by step. The next thing to do is to absorb all the magic elements, fuse with each other in the body, restore, and form a chaotic power more primitive than magic, which is the kind of power that I have been pursuing before. Of course, Naruto has now understood that the real power of chaos is in the turbulent flow of time and space. Power, it is better to say that it is the source power of this world. The most primitive power. Okay, let's go find their whereabouts now. I can sense that they are above the top of the head. Naruto smiled lightly, raised his head and said. Strange. It's clearly in this area, but this aura seems to be hidden in another space. On the sea, Naruto stood naked on the waves and muttered. Did you really sense that the breath was not fake? Halentia said beside him. Well, this is definitely not my illusion. But I can't find the exact location clearly. Naruto looked around, and there was a sea all around, and the sea breeze was blowing, but he couldn't find any clues. But his power aura is indeed in this place, there must be something hidden here. Mind-blowing thought. That, Naruto, Halentia suddenly said, if you can't find it now, take a rest first, you don't even have any clothes on. Naruto was stunned when he heard the words, looked down, and couldn't help but look like Yuhi. He was in the turbulent time and space, and his clothes had disappeared long ago. And Halentia stood aside, looking at her body shyly. Halentia, why didn't you remind me earlier? Naruto said in a stunned moment. Well, I was so happy to see you back before, I forgot to tell you for a while. Halentia said aggrieved. Come on, I have clothes here. She snapped her fingers, and suddenly a white robe appeared in her hands. Naruto stretched out his hand to take it, put it on awkwardly, and looked at it. Fortunately, although this dress was obviously worn by Halentia, it was slightly neutral, and it would not arouse other people's objection if I wore it myself. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately there was no one around, only Halentia, otherwise it would be embarrassing to die if he was seen naked by others. 900. Bisca. Next, the two studied nearby for a while, until Naruto stopped at 10 in the evening. I've been busy for a long time and haven't noticed at all. Naruto sighed slightly. It seems that this place is sealed by a special power in a different dimension, but I can't open it with my current strength, I have to wait until I properly cultivate the energy in my body. No, in 3 days, I will definitely be able to open this space. There was a look of determination in his eyes. Most of the magic power in his body is now filled with water, and he has not yet merged into the source power of this world. Many previous techniques could not be displayed. Therefore, the most urgent task is to cultivate his own power completely. Well, that's fine, as long as you have confidence. Halantia nodded and said. Well, let's go home first, and I'll be in retreat for the next few days. Naruto grabbed Halantia and walked towards the land on the waves. Go back. Go home. Hylantia was stunned for a moment, and when she heard the word, she suddenly felt at a loss. Yeah, what's the matter? Aren't you going back with me? Naruto couldn't help asking when she saw her strange appearance. Ah, no, it's just. I'm just too happy. Huh. Halantia looked up at him, with a happy smile on her face. I never thought that one day I would be able to go home with Naruto. I have been on the seabed for a long time, and I have almost never been on land. Well, since I became a water dragon, I have killed so many human beings, and I no longer have the courage to come to the mainland, but it is different now. With your traction, I am no longer afraid. Hearing this, Naruto gently held her hand. Hylantia, that was you in the past, and now that you have recovered your human form, you can stay by my side forever. Really? Can I really? Halantia said excitedly. Of course, didn't you say you wanted to give me a baby? I still remember this. If you weren't by my side, how would you have a baby? Naruto laughed and hugged him. Her slender waist rushed towards the land. Wow, that's great. Halantia was moved to tears by Naruto's words, and she was extremely shy when she heard these words. Finally, Naruto and Hylantia stepped on the ground, and Naruto felt a sense of emotion when they landed on the ground. Reincarnation is just like that, right? After turning around in the virtual circle, and returning through the turbulent flow of time and space, after 7 years, the breath of this land is really nostalgic. Let's go home. The city where Fairy Tail is located. Naruto's original residence. Huh, it's finally here. Naruto looked at Halantia, pointed to a house in front and said, this is my residence. Hylantia smiled slightly. I didn't expect a strong person like you to live in such an ordinary place. Ah, that's what I said. Change to a bigger man or villa next time. Naruto touched his nose and laughed when she mentioned it. Huh. Just after the two approached, Naruto suddenly made a suspicious sound. There, someone. Hylantia also noticed the difference, and looked at Naruto. Naruto stepped forward quickly, came to the door, and found that his house was actually very clean, surrounded by people cleaning it every day, and there seemed to be noises inside the house. Naruto, is there anyone else in your family? Halantia asked in confusion. No, I'm the only one in my family. Naruto shook his head, closed his eyes slightly, and sensed the breath of the person in the room, with a very familiar feeling. He stepped forward and knocked on the door. The next moment, the door opened, and with the voice of a woman, a familiar figure appeared in front of Naruto. Bye, Bisca, Naruto said in surprise. I didn't expect Bisca to be in her own home. What's going on? He remembered that Bisca didn't exist among the people who went to Sirius Island for the S-rank exam at that time, so she should have been in the guild in recent years. Why is she in her own home? Moreover, what made Naruto's eyes shine is that after 7 years, Bisca's whole person has also changed. 7 years is not long or short, but for a woman, it can be change her a lot. At that time, Bisca was only 18 years old. Now, 7 years have passed. At the age of 25, she looks more sexy and mature, and her figure is also very perfect and enchanting, which makes people feel amazing at first glance. At this moment, she was wearing a thin blue and white striped suspender skirt. A large piece of snow-white skin was exposed on her chest, and her long green hair was loosely draped over her shoulders, which made people look sexy and carefree. She felt lazy, but for some reason there was a faint sadness between her brows. And she Staring blankly at Naruto who appeared in front of her, Yuhi-run's small mouth opened slightly, with a dull look on her face. "Bishka, why are you here?" Naruto said, but before he could finish speaking, Bishka suddenly swooped over and hugged Naruto fiercely, at the same time tears rolled down his face. Naruto couldn't help but be stunned. He felt Bishka's excitement, and he couldn't help reaching out and patted her silky jade back lightly. Bishka hugged Naruto's body tightly, but she just kept crying and couldn't say anything. Actually, Naruto doesn't know. As early as 7 years ago, even when Naruto first joined the guild, Bishka deeply fell in love with him, but she did not have the courage to say it to Naruto, seeing so many beautiful people surrounded by Naruto. She felt that she did not have the courage to step forward. However, this did not stop her from admiring Naruto, and she was watching Naruto all the time. One day, Naruto borrowed the bathroom of Bishka's house, which made her so excited that she couldn't sleep for several days, but because of her cowardice in her feelings, she never dared to implement the idea of getting closer to Naruto. "Come out." Until the day Naruto disappeared, Bishka was still worried about whether or not she should confess to Naruto.